Chapter 281. Many of the reporters here came from Ning City. Before they came, their superiors had more or less given them a reminder. The general idea was to dig up Jing Yunzhao thoroughly, as if she had offended someone. Actually, they were curious. Jing Yunzhao was just a country bumpkin. How could she have caused such a huge commotion? However, even though they felt it was strange before, since Jing Yunzhao was so vile, they also felt that it was reasonable. But now, it was different. This pair of parents who were so lively were actually fake. The DNA test had the doctor's signature and the hospital seal. How could there be a mistake? These reporters weren't stupid. What they wanted was big news. Now that the scene had already been broadcasted live on the internet, if they were to harshly criticize Jing Yunzhao now or run away in a sorry state, they would definitely be scolded to death by the netizens. The only way to get rid of this negative influence was, "Andy Wong, are you really not Jing Yunzhao's mother? Did you make up everything you said just now?" In an instant, the wind changed. The netizens who came to support her were confused. Wasn't it Jing Yunzhao's fault? Why did it suddenly change? No, I really am her biological mother, Wang Xinfang said hurriedly. The reporters suddenly remembered that the eldest daughter of the Jing family had said something weird when they were asking questions. Did she know the truth? Suddenly, they turned to look at Jing Xiao. "Little girl, is Jing Yunzhao really your sister?" Jing Xiao panicked and shook her head. Wang Xinfang looked and grabbed her shoulders. Her eyes were fierce. "Jing Xiao, Jing Yunzhao is your eldest sister. She's our family's long-lost eldest daughter. If you don't know, don't talk nonsense, okay?" Some of them gritted their teeth and tried to coerce her. If Jing Xiao said something wrong, they wouldn't be able to refute. In an instant, all the cameras were pointed at Jing Xiao's tender face. "Is this all you reporters can do? You forced me at first, and now you're forcing Jing Xiao. Are your verbal attacks not enough? How many times do you want to throw stones?" Jing Yunzhao's cold voice drifted over. She would not let the Jing family off, except for Jing Xiao. This little girl reminded her of herself in her previous life. She was a little confused and scared, weak on the outside but stubborn on the inside. Jing Xiao raised her head and bit her lip. It was not that she did not want to say it, but no matter how wrong her parents were, they were still her parents. After all, Jing Yunzhao was not her biological child. No matter what she did, her family could not do anything to her in the future. But she was different. Blood ties could not be changed. Jing Xiao had made up her mind not to say anything. After being scolded by Jing Yunzhao, the reporters were also embarrassed, but they still had to give the netizens an explanation. Moreover, the netizens who had come to cheer him on were now in a mess. What's going on? Why was she suddenly not his biological daughter? Then this family is a swindler? I even gave them 1,000 yuan. This has nothing to do with money now. The most important thing is to find out who is telling the truth and who is lying. There were whispers at the side, but some people had already rushed up to Wang Xinfang to clarify the situation. The reporters were pushed to the side and had no choice but to ask the villagers. Jing Yunzhao looked on coldly. Her aura made people not dare to approach her. The red blood on her forehead was especially clear under the morning sun and moved people's hearts. Chapter 282. The villagers came to show the injuries on their bodies to prove how disobedient and unfilial Jing Yunzhao was. But they didn't expect things to get out of hand, and the reporters would turn against them. It was a mess. Jing Taijun is your good neighbor, right? Did they really lose a daughter? One of the reporters asked. Yes, she was lost by Granny Jing. Did Wang Xinfang search for her? Did Granny Jing say where she went? The reporter continued to ask. However, upon hearing this, the man's face stiffened as he thought of some strange things. Every family in their village hoped to have a boy to take care of them in their old age, so girls didn't seem to be so precious. After giving birth to a lot of girls, some of them were eventually given away to others, and some people secretly lost their children. But usually, only the older generation would throw their children away. The mother of the child was pregnant for 10 months, so she definitely wouldn't be able to accept it. But at that time, Wang Xinfang didn't seem to have much of a reaction. I think we searched for a day, the man recalled. After saying that, he was stunned. Indeed, they searched for a day, but on the second day, there was no news. It was as if the child didn't exist. A day? The reporter was also stunned. The other reporters at the side smelled a conspiracy. One of the villagers said that he heard from the older generation close to Granny Jing that the child was thrown up the mountain and was probably dead. Once these words were said, everyone was dumbfounded. If the child of the Jing family was dead, then why did they come out to acknowledge the family? This wasn't as simple as acknowledging the wrong person, right? But that villager just said it carelessly and didn't have any evidence. As for the specifics, everyone could only imagine. Actually, most of these villagers were simple and honest. They truly believed that Jing Yunzhao was Jing Taijun's daughter, so they felt that it was natural for her to listen to her parents' words and help the Jing family to create a ruckus. However, now that everyone was saying that she wasn't, these people started to think about it after putting aside their relationship with the Jing family. They felt that it wasn't likely. Once they found out that they were lied to, it would be strange if the villagers didn't get angry. Wang Xinfang, what are you thinking? Is this girl really your family's daughter? Don't lie to us to harm others. We don't want to do such immoral things. That's right. You said that there was a paternity test, so we believed you. We only helped you because we've been neighbors for decades. Didn't you promise to give each of us 100 yuan if we came? Now that things have turned out this way, you won't refuse to give me the money, right? Wang Xinfang felt like vomiting blood when she heard the endless criticism. Weren't these people helping her before? But now, they're actually siding with outsiders. I've wasted so many years getting along with them. Wang Xinfang, I just need to find a lawyer and use the report in your hands to make that hospital apologize to me obediently and compensate me. The doctor who helped you fake the report won't be able to escape. Guess what that doctor will say when the time comes? There were some people he didn't dare to offend, but he would definitely be exposed. At that time, he would be accused of fraud. Neither of you will be able to escape. At that time, your son. Before Jing Yunzhao could finish, Wang Xinfang immediately held Jing Minkai in her arms. Don't you dare touch my son. I'll talk. Wang Xinfang glared at Jing Yunzhao as if she had a deep grudge against her. Chapter 283. Jing Yunzhao relaxed as soon as Wang Xinfang relented. She was just bluffing. Regardless of whether she said it or not, she would still be charged. As long as she opened her mouth, it would be a fact. She couldn't change it even if she wanted to. This matter was so big that it would be more lively on the internet than in reality. Even if she didn't sue Wang Xinfang and Jing Taijun, the prosecutor's office would prosecute them. As the victim, she couldn't even withdraw the lawsuit. The two couldn't escape even if they wanted to. Although this family was pitiful, who wasn't pitiful? If they could frame others just because they were pitiful, the world would have been in chaos. Wang Xinfang hugged Jing Minkai tightly and gritted her teeth. It's fake. The test report in my hand is fake. A rich lady I didn't know came to me and asked me to pretend to be your parents. This test was actually done using my shower's blood sample. She gave me a photo of you and sent someone to follow you. After finding you, she asked me to come forward and acknowledge you. She even gave me 30,000 yuan and said that she would give me more after the matter was settled. Jing Yunzhao, is this enough? I didn't start this matter. You offended her. Wang Xinfang said angrily. She wouldn't change. Jing Yunzhao looked at the trembling Jing Xiu and asked, You used Jing Xiu's blood sample? Does she know? Wang Xinfang was as stupid as a pig. How would others look at Jing Xiu if she exposed Jing Xiu in front of so many people? They would definitely think that she was the same as this bastard mother. Jing Xiu would always be labeled as an accomplice in deceiving others. If she didn't speak nonsense, others would still think that Jing Xiu was a child who didn't know what her parents wanted to do. But when it came to the test, it was different. If it was Jing Minkai, Wang Xinfang would definitely think more. But she didn't think much about Jing Xiu. She didn't know. I heard that they needed a blood sample, so I went to the clinic to borrow a syringe. I learned from the nurse and drew a can. When she said this, the onlookers looked at Jing Xiu with sympathy. This was her biological mother. How could she treat her biological daughter like this? Only now did Jing Xiu remember that her parents had drawn blood for her. Her face instantly turned pale. What did they say at that time? She said that she had been working hard since she was a child, and in less than a year, she was going to have her middle school exams. She wanted to draw some blood to check her body condition so that she could nourish her body according to the doctor's advice. Actually, at that time, she also felt strange. Her parents never cared much about her, but after all, they had said so. She was also a little excited, so she agreed without hesitation. Now that she thought about it, it was no wonder that her parents' expressions were so ugly when she asked her younger brother to check it out. It turned out that they couldn't bear to part with him. She was not good with words since she was young. She was not like Jingling, who knew how to please her parents. She also could not become a boy, so she could only accept her fate and be a good girl. Although many of her classmates in school looked down on her, she still tried her best to please her classmates and parents. It was all fake, all of it. Her parents had used her to deceive others. Even if she didn't know about it, she had been deceived. What was the difference between her and an accomplice? She suddenly felt disgusted. Wang Xinfang's attitude and every word she said was like a hammer, hitting everyone until they couldn't breathe. The villagers were still okay. They already knew that the Jing family didn't love their daughter, so they didn't feel surprised. But these reporters and enthusiastic netizens felt like they had swallowed a bunch of dead flies. They thought that they were upholding justice, but it turned out that they were accomplices to a villain. Chapter 284. There were so many reporters here, and most of them were here to attack Jing Yunzhao. They wanted a bright future, and since their boss mentioned that he wanted Jing Yunzhao, this girl, to receive retribution, then they would do their best to fulfill their duties. But now, Jing Yunzhao's retribution had yet to be seen. Instead, it was them, the ones who were targeting Jing Yunzhao, who would be busy for a while. Looking at the wound on her forehead, the more they looked at it, the more distressed they felt. The netizens who came to support her felt extremely guilty at this time. She had abused a little girl who had been wronged since she was young, and in front of so many adults. They would be scolded to death, wouldn't they? Those who were involved in this matter would be attacked by netizens one after another, wouldn't they? They had a feeling that life would not be too good for a while. At this moment, the people who reacted quickly had already started to ask Wang Xinfang who the rich lady was. Unfortunately, although Wang Xinfang knew that the other party called herself Mrs. He, she did not know her name. No matter how these people asked, they would not be able to get an answer. As for the reporters, they couldn't help but be careful. As small reporters, they couldn't come into contact with too many high-level things. But they also knew that some families couldn't be provoked. Otherwise, their small companies would be destroyed in the blink of an eye. Even if there were a few reporters who knew who the attacker was, they did not say a word and remained silent. Everyone tacitly did not ask Jing Yunzhao more. On one hand, they were ashamed, and on the other hand, they felt that it was blasphemous. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao stood there with a strong aura. There was a bit of contempt in her eyes, which made everyone feel that they could not raise their heads, as if they were a joke. Jing Yunzhao's appearance and attitude made people feel an indescribable heartache and admiration. Her expression was clean, as usual. Under the sun, her eyes seemed to shine with a bright light. She was fascinated but unfathomable. They could not believe that they had treated such a calm and indifferent girl as a morally corrupt person. The school teachers present breathed a sigh of relief. The reporters did not dare to get close to Jing Yunzhao, but they chatted with her for a while. It was rare that they were not as confrontational as before, and they did not dare to pick on her. However, these questions were mostly about Jing Yunzhao's situation in school. Without a doubt, the teachers' answers made the reporters who asked the questions secretly click their tongues. In the past year, no matter which subject he was in, he had never fallen from the first place. He had participated in several competitions and gained fame for the school. Jing Yunzhao's reputation had improved a lot. Although there were still some people who didn't like her due to Qiao Hongye's influence, they didn't view her as an enemy. Now that they saw so many people besieging her, they couldn't help but feel some sympathy and righteous indignation. Therefore, when the reporters asked questions, some of them worshipped Jing Yunzhao fiercely. Some of them used all kinds of things to prove that although she was cold and aloof, she would never bully her classmates, and the rest disdained to flatter Jing Yunzhao, but they also spoke the truth. Instead, it was more realistic. Compared to Jing Yunzhao, the Qiao family and Jing family's people were like eggplants that had been hit by frost, completely wilting. Only then did the two families truly understand what it meant to lose reputation. The injury on Jing Yunzhao's forehead magnified the effect of their actions. At this moment, facing the anger of the crowd, Jing Yunzhao could imagine what their future days would be like. Chapter 285. The scene that was originally a big fuss had turned into a joke. When Jing Yunzhao stepped into the school grounds, everyone relaxed and had the intention of escaping in a sorry state. It's finally over. Yunzhao, it's really dangerous this time. Fortunately, Li Xiao sent the identification report to you in advance. Otherwise, we can't explain it clearly even if we have 10 mouths. Xiao Haiqing and Su Chu stayed with Jing Yunzhao in the infirmary and cleaned her wound. Su Chu nodded and agreed. These people were really terrifying, especially when they came with the mentality of upholding justice, as if all the resistance of others was a great sin and unpardonable evil. If it wasn't for the fact that they had the most favorable evidence, then wouldn't they have been swallowed alive by them? Moreover, if there was no identification report, they would also list the parent-child relationship as a fact. If Jing Yunzhao cooperated and admitted her mistake, those people would criticize her severely and ask her to show her sincerity. They would even observe her actions for a long time in the future. If she didn't cooperate, they would not let her go. It was bound to be a hot speculation, and she would become everyone's target. In short, no matter what she did, in the eyes of those righteous people, it was wrong. Even if they later added in the real test report, no one would believe it. Even if the heat of this matter had already passed, with the gossip at the beginning satisfying their inner sense of justice, the truth at the end might not be so important anymore. It also meant that Jing Yunzhao would be misunderstood by the world for a lifetime. Cousin, you must thank that Li Xiao well. He has helped a lot. Su Chu was grateful. After that, looking at Jing Yunzhao's wound, she curled her lips. Cousin, why don't you hide? This scar will stay on your face for a long time. In addition to the wound on her cousin's face, there was no flaw at all, and her skin was getting better and better. The person who did it behind her back was simply vicious. Jing Yunzhao raised her eyes and smiled at Xiao Haiqing. It's clear that Yunzhao's forehead is not injured in vain. Xiao Haiqing's movements became softer and softer. Everyone would remember the pain and humiliation she suffered at that moment. The color of blood would always be the best thing to reinforce other people's memories. Moreover, there were so many cameras, so many reporters, and even some parents on the periphery recording the whole process with their mobile phones. They didn't even need to investigate who did it. Someone would naturally find out. You think it's over, right? Xiao Haiqing asked Su Chu with a smile. Su Chu was confused. That's right. The reporters ran away with their tails between their legs. Some of the so-called enthusiastic netizens also left. Only a few people surrounded the Jing family and asked them for the money they had donated. It had nothing to do with them anymore. Su Chu liked to think about things on the surface, but she was not stupid. After being reminded by Xiao Haiqing, her eyes lit up instantly. It's not that it hasn't ended, it's just the beginning. Su Chu revealed a soft and cute smile as she chuckled. Yes, it's just the beginning. Jing Yunzhao's mouth was slightly hooked. Her eyes were cold, but they disappeared in a flash. The three girls knew each other's intentions and didn't say much. Gan Jinshen, Tang Zihua, and Qi Deong also came to see the situation of Jing Yunzhao. They found that although her wound bled a lot at the time, it was not particularly serious. She would be fine after a period of rest. When those reporters besieged, the three boys who had a good relationship with Jing Yunzhao naturally wanted to protect her, but who dared? Everyone knew that the appearance of a male classmate at that time would not help Jing Yunzhao, but a greater slander, so they could only watch from a distance. Chapter 286. The three of them couldn't help but feel that time passed extremely slowly today. When they saw Jing Yunzhao being criticized, they couldn't wait to push away those reporters and uphold justice for her. But the truth was that the play of a hero saving a damsel in distress couldn't be used in reality. At this time, Tang Zihua already had some faint suspicions in his heart. The Mrs. He that Wang Xinfang mentioned in front of everyone was most likely He Jiaxi's mother. He couldn't be more familiar with the He family. The He family had a lot of businesses and was involved in many fields, but unfortunately, they weren't proficient in any of them. So even though the He family was still considered rich and powerful, they weren't ranked among the upper class in Ning City. But because of their relationship with the Tang family, people gave them some face everywhere. The current head of the He family was called He Jili. His wife's name was Han Qin. Han Qin only gave birth to one daughter, He Jiasi. Although it wasn't a big deal that He Jiasi was sent abroad, her reputation was ruined. It would be difficult for her to find a suitable match in the future, unless it involved interests. He Jili's businesses were all inherited from old master He. Because of this, although He Jili was now middle-aged, he was still a bit of a hedonist in his bones, which caused the He family to become worse and worse. He had even found a few women outside, and he didn't lack illegitimate children. So after He Jiasi's value decreased, He Jili presumably didn't like his wife, Han Qin. Han Qin's anger naturally vented on Jing Yunzhao. As for whether or not He Jiasi was behind all of this, he was well aware of it. This matter had become so big that it was necessary for him to inform his grandfather about it. His current illness was actually more or less healed. Logically speaking, he didn't need to continue staying in Huaning County, but the environment here allowed him to relax, so he kept staying here and refused to leave. Jing Yunzhao could be considered his savior, and his grandfather was also very concerned about her. He just didn't know if his grandfather would take his anger out on the He family because of her. After all, the He family and the Tang family were true friends. Yunzhao, I'm sorry. This matter might be because of me. Tang Zihua apologized. Jing Yunzhao narrowed his eyes. Have you guessed which family it is? Among the people you've offended, other than the He family, there shouldn't be anyone who has the ability to put pressure on those reporters. Moreover, I've specifically looked at the posts on the internet. The reason why they're so popular is entirely because of the water army. There's a lot of them. Without connections and money, they wouldn't be able to do it. Tang Zihua was very honest. Jing Yunzhao smiled and looked up. It's the He family. So? I'll tell my grandfather, but I'm not sure how he'll deal with it. You know, the relationship between the He family and the Tang family has always been very good. Tang Zihua was also in a difficult position, but he did tell the truth. Although they were family friends, it was not a complete relationship. In fact, they were somewhat of the same branch. Many of the He family's businesses were funded by the Tang family. If the Tang family made a move, the He family would fall in the shortest time possible. However, the Tang family would also suffer some losses. It could be said that both sides would not end well. However, the Tang family was powerful. At most, they would lose some money. It was impossible for them to hurt their foundation. Therefore, Tang Zihua was even more uncertain. Businessmen prioritized profits. Although Jing Yunzhao was special, he did not know if she was special enough to make his grandfather treat her differently. He also knew that such an opinion was a little hurtful. After all, he was the origin of this matter. Logically speaking, the Tang family should seek justice for Jing Yunzhao. However, in reality, the possibility of that was not high. What Tang Zihua could guess, Jing Yunzhao also knew in her heart. She did not expect the Tang family to do anything at all. Even if she could not destroy the He family with her own hands now, she would be able to do it sooner or later. She did not necessarily need the Tang family to make a move. In fact, even if the Tang family made a move, they would definitely leave some leeway. However, the He family used the matter of her biological parents to bully her. No matter what, she could not tolerate it. She would not be satisfied if she did not turn the He family upside down. Chapter 287. It was only a matter of time. 3 years, at most 3 years, she would trample the He family under her feet. Seeing Jing Yunzhao's silence, Tang Zihua felt even more embarrassed. After a while, he heard her say, I accepted your consultation fee. Since I'm treating you, it's only right that I take some risks. You don't have to take everything on yourself. I don't care how Grandfather Tang deals with it. You can tell him exactly what I said. I won't make things difficult for him now, but I also hope that when I deal with the He family in the future, he won't make things difficult for me. Tang Zihua was shocked. Jing Yunzhao's tone was a little arrogant, but he somehow felt that it was believable. Okay, I can promise you that the Tang family won't interfere when the time comes. Tang Zihua immediately said. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Her attitude towards Tang Zihua was the same as before, which made Tang Zihua sigh in relief. However, after being stirred up by the He family, he felt a little lacking in confidence. Gan Jinxin and Jing Yunzhao had a common interest in medicine. Even Qi Daong, the class monitor, could discuss class matters with Jing Yunzhao, but he, on the other hand, always brought trouble to Jing Yunzhao. This feeling was a little embarrassing. He was a descendant of the Tang family. In Ning City, as long as his friends were involved with him, not only would they not cause trouble, but they would also bring a lot of convenience. However, in Huaning County, the Crown Prince's halo was gone. The psychological gap was too big. After Tang Zihua finished making his promise to Jing Yunzhao, he left the school and called his biological grandfather, Tang Lin, when he returned home. The old man usually cared about financial news. How could he pay attention to these social issues? Now that Tang Zihua mentioned it, he knew that Jing Yunzhao had suffered a lot in the morning. He even went online to search. Sure enough, it was easy to find the post that Tang Zihua mentioned. Currently, there were people who had recorded the whole thing that happened in the morning and posted it. The old man looked through it with a serious face. When he reached the end, he was a little worried, especially when he saw the wound on Jing Yunzhao's forehead. He couldn't help but feel his heart ache. He even specially opened up the comments from other people at the beginning and found that those words could be said to be vicious, scolding Jing Yunzhao to the point that she was drenched in dog blood. One could imagine how tense the situation was at that time. "You brat, did she really say that?" Elder Tang asked angrily over the phone. "That's right, grandfather. You don't have to pretend anymore. If our family makes a move against the He family now, outsiders won't be able to figure out your intentions. Who knows how chaotic it will be." Tang Zihua also hit the nail on the head. Benefits were the opposite, and there was also trouble. Between the two clans, how could they kick each other aside just like that? If that was the case, wouldn't other companies be scared to death when they worked with the Tang family? "You brat." Elder Tang's mouth twitched, but he was momentarily speechless. "You didn't have to be so direct, did you? If that's the case, that girl will most likely be on guard against our family as well." Could it be that his grandson was a blockhead? The fact that he agreed to let the eldest grandson of the Tang family go to school in Huaning County when his illness was almost cured, wasn't the meaning behind it obvious enough? Compared to that girl from the He family, he liked Jing Yunzhao more. Self-reliant and independent, neither servile nor overbearing. Their Tang family didn't need a commercial marriage at all. Although it was best for families of equal social status, if there were other choices, they didn't have to consider social status. Whether it was appearance or temperament, Jing Yunzhao was the perfect granddaughter-in-law in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that Zihua and Jing Yunzhao were still too young, he would have said this clearly. Chapter 288. Grandfather Tang faintly sighed. He felt that half of his granddaughter-in-law had flown away, so he only said, "We can't touch the He family for the time being. Since that girl Yunzhao has the courage to do it herself, that's good." It was impossible to withdraw all of his financial support all of a sudden, so he had to take it slow. The He family wasn't the same as it was decades ago. He couldn't tolerate it again and again just because they were old friends. Previously, that girl He Jiasi jumped around in front of Jing Yunzhao. Fortunately, Jing Yunzhao didn't care about it. Otherwise, his grandson's illness might not have been cured. It wasn't good for him to suddenly deal with the He family, but he could still give them a warning. No matter how big the business interests in the world were, it couldn't be compared to his grandson's life. He owed Jing Yunzhao, but he didn't owe the He family anything. Grandfather Tang watched the video a few times, but Li Xiaoyun in the capital had already exploded. So many people were pointing at Jing Yunzhao's nose and cursing, but he actually threw a stone at her? Li Xiaoyun immediately asked someone to take a screenshot of Jing Yunzhao's injury and magnify it. He looked at it carefully a few times and even asked a doctor to ask about it. When the doctor confirmed that it was only a superficial wound and wouldn't leave a scar, Li Xiaoyun's complexion became better. Ning City's He family, to me, it's just a matter of moving my mouth. He called Jing Yunzhao and said heroically, "Young Master Li, I want to do it myself. How can I rely on you?" Jing Yunzhao said gratefully. Li Xiaoyun had helped her enough this time. If it weren't for the paternity test report, how could she explain it clearly? Li Xiaoyun was stunned, But he also guessed that if the other party used the matter of her biological parents to torment her, the knot in her heart would definitely not be resolved in a short period of time. If he helped to deal with the He family, then even if the He family fell in a big way, it would just be an understatement to them. It would also cause her to have nowhere to vent her anger, which would be counterproductive. It was best for her to remember this debt now and get back at them one by one in the future. Moreover, with her ability, it wouldn't take too long. All right then, do as you see fit. If there's anything, feel free to look for me. Li Xiaoyun had a good temper. Jing Yunzhao replied with an N and continued, I understand. Thank you, young Master Li. When Li Xiaoyun heard this, he raised his eyebrows and restrained himself a little. Pay attention to your injuries and don't let them come into contact with water. Although it's not serious, you should pay attention to your diet. If it's inflammation, go see a doctor immediately. Li Xiaoyun was halfway through his sentence when he suddenly remembered that Jing Yunzhao herself was a doctor. He paused for a moment before continuing, Anyway, you're not allowed to treat your body as a joke next time. If you can avoid it, try your best to avoid it. Jing Yunzhao. That. Especially when they first met. When? Hey. Unbeknownst to her, the people standing beside Li Xiaoyun were dumbfounded. A few of them swallowed their saliva in shock, thinking that they had seen a ghost. After Li Xiaoyun hung up the phone, he obviously realized that he was acting strangely, but the next second, he confirmed his thoughts. His face was calm, as if this reaction was natural. Li Xiaoyun was paying attention to the situation on the internet, and the others were no exception. This post was pushed to all the major forums and websites, and the Internet Water Army made a big fuss about it. Now that it was completely popular, the momentum didn't stop. Chapter 289. Previously, all the posts were scolding Jing Yunzhao, but now, they were attacking the Jing and Xiao families. They could not wait to offer everyone a basin of black dog's blood, so that the two families would reveal their true forms. Some people even exposed the addresses of the two families. Some people even called the two families 24 hours a day to harass them. At night, Jing Yunzhao received several calls from Pak Yuan, Xiang Jin, and Du Lin. She went online and refreshed the forum to watch the fight. I've never seen such shameless people. They even impersonated their parents. Shameless. Scum. +1. See that banner? How dare they say that others are immoral and despise the poor and favor the rich? I wish I could pretend to be their ancestor and jump out of the coffin and beat them to death. The children of the two weirdos in the Jing family are nothing. That little boy is obviously spoiled. I hate him for valuing boys over girls. Also, the Jing family is not good. The Qiao family is even weirder. Since they don't treat their child well, why did they adopt her? Hypocrites, you're all scolding her. Am I the only one who likes Jing Yunzhao? Upstairs, upstairs. I've found a soulmate. Jing Yunzhao is so beautiful. Her skin is good, her figure is good, and her grades are good. She's like a goddess in school. Her aura is just like a queen's. When she was talking, I forgot to look at others. It's just a pity that her face was disfigured. I wish I could beat the bastard who hit her 1,000,000 times. This is the guy who hit her. Everyone, come and beat him up. A photo was attached. Some people continued to scold her in new posts, but some posts became more and more crooked. Jing Yunzhao patiently read them line by line. She couldn't explain her feelings. They didn't know her, but they could scold her and make her into a goddess. After a few hours, Jing Yunzhao closed the webpage. She sighed and entered the dimension to practice martial arts. However, the battle outside was far more intense than what she had seen. Previously, when these people were attacking Jing Yunzhao, they had described her as a vicious and evil person. Now, it was proven that she was completely wronged. After the netizens felt that they had been deceived, some people apologized to Jing Yunzhao online, while others cursed and scolded her to vent their anger. However, the ones who had the greatest impact on the Jing and Qiao families were the people in real life. Xiao Weiman and Xiao Hongye's reputation wasn't too good to begin with. After the commotion on the internet, this matter spread throughout the town. The father and daughter duo didn't dare to go out at all. Xiao Hongye could have stayed with the Zhang family, but now that the Zhang family was in a bad mood because of the heartbreak poison incident, they didn't want to get into trouble at all, so they had Zhang Xia send her back. In the past, Jiang Xia really liked Xiao Hongye. However, after he got her, Xiao Hongye naturally changed from the white moonlight in his heart to the mosquito blood on the wall. In addition, she had previously humiliated Jiang Xia's pride in front of others, so this time, Jiang Xia only hesitated for a moment before agreeing. Xiao Hongye, who had returned home, simply couldn't move an inch. When she went out to buy groceries, many people simply ignored her and refused to sell to her. Needless to say, Xiao Weiman used to love drinking. He didn't have many friends, but there were still many who could drink and chat merrily with him. However, ever since this incident, everyone avoided Xiao Weiman. Even the neighbors didn't give the Qiao family a second glance. This situation continued for half a month until Xiao Hongye couldn't take it anymore. She got Xiao Weiman drunk and coaxed out the location where the money was hidden in the house. However, when Xiao Hongye ran away with a few thousand yuan, Xiao Weiman unexpectedly reacted and chased after her. However, he drank quite a lot. Not only did he not manage to catch up, he even fell into a deep ditch by the side of the road. He cried out for a few hours, but no one cared. Later, he fainted. The passers-by were afraid that he would die, so they sent him to the hospital. Chapter 290. Xiao Weiman didn't die from the fall, but he was crippled. When he woke up in the hospital, one of his legs had already been amputated. The medical fees were paid by his neighbors out of kindness, but even though they paid, no one took care of him in the hospital. Xiao Weiman was completely dumbfounded. He wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf in the hospital. Unfortunately, the doctors already knew what kind of person he was and prepared in advance. They even recorded Xiao Weiman's condition when he was admitted to the hospital. No matter how much trouble he caused, there was no effect at all. Ever since the Qiao family's reputation was ruined, Qiao Zizhou had always felt ashamed and didn't return home for half a month. Although Xiao Weiman was stingy with his daughter, he was generous with his son, so he didn't lack money. He simply rented a house outside the school and lived on his own. However, in the school, he naturally lost all face. He only hoped to pass the last 2 years of high school quickly and leave Huaning County, this damned place. Now that Xiao Weiman was crippled and had no children by his side, this man who didn't even know how to cook would occasionally go hungry. Even though he scolded Jing Yunzhao with his mouth, he could no longer go to the county to look for trouble like before. He could only drown his sorrows in alcohol every day. After a long time, his head was no longer as clear as before. He even went to the hospital a few times because of alcohol poisoning. No matter how miserable Xiao Weiman's life was, outsiders wouldn't sympathize with him at all. While Xiao Weiman's life wasn't easy, Jing Taijun and Wang Xianfang were even more miserable. The people in the village saw each other all the time. Usually, they needed help to survive, but now because of this family's concealment, they had offended almost everyone in the village. Not long after Wang Xianfang and her husband returned, they were prosecuted by the prosecutor's office for fraud. This matter was too big and had a bad influence. Naturally, someone had to come out to calm it down and restore a clean reputation. And that doctor was also found. With him as a witness, the couple's crime was even more unquestionable. Bribing the doctor to fake a paternity test to deceive Jing Yunzhao was one thing, but it was even more so for the public, especially when the two of them used their relationship with Jing Yunzhao to gain sympathy. In one night, the total amount of donations added up to more than 100,000. As for that Mrs. He, because her identity was unknown, the case was left unsettled. The husband and wife were sentenced to 5.5 years in prison. Since the 3 children of the Jing family were not orphans, they could only be temporarily taken care of by their relatives. But the Jing family's reputation was already tarnished. Although the relatives took away Jing Mingkai and Jing Ling for the sake of their many years of friendship, they naturally did not feel comfortable in their hearts. In the past, Jing Mingkai was like a little emperor at home. Now that his parents were no longer around and he was living under someone else's roof, he still maintained his original nature. Naturally, he had to suffer and suffer. Jing Ling could be considered smart, and her mouth was sweet. It was just that her cleverness was not enough in the eyes of outsiders. Now that she did not spend much money in junior high school, she could still endure it. But if she wanted to continue going to high school, it would be difficult. In the future, she would definitely be bitten to death by her relatives. Wang Xinfang's most important son was being raised by someone else. She hated it to death in prison. As for Jing Mingkai, although he suffered in other people's homes, he refused to return to the Jing family's old house. Other than Jing Shuli, there was nothing else in the house. The Jing family didn't have many relatives, and even fewer were willing to take care of them. Moreover, compared to living under someone else's roof, Jing Xiu was more willing to live in her hometown. At least she didn't have to look at other people's faces. As for the work at home, she had long been used to it, so she could bear it. Although Jing Yunjiao was very disgusted with the Jing family, he still paid some attention to Jing Xiu. He continuously asked people to inquire about her situation. Chapter 291. Jing Xiu's living environment was different from Jing Mingkai's, so what she was experiencing was naturally different. Jing Mingkai was still a primary school student. Children didn't know much. Although some parents reminded their children not to get too close to him, life was still the same. It was just that he felt wronged. Every day, he would make a fuss at his relatives' place, causing them to be annoyed. Slowly, he began the process of being beaten up. However, Jing Xiu's classmates already had a clear sense of right and wrong. Moreover, children at this age were beginning to hate evil more than ordinary people. Therefore, Jing Xiu had no place in school. Her parents were in prison. Even if Jing Xiu was unbelievably obedient, to others, she was still a bad person. When she went to school, her bag was secretly stuffed with worms. As soon as she left her seat, her books would be thrown everywhere. Every day, she was on the verge of collapse. When Jing Yunjiao received the news, he asked Du Lin to help and bring her out of Changshui village. She wanted to go personally, but now, when she walked on the streets of Huaning County, people would frequently turn their heads. If she went to Changshui village, she would simply be a rare gorilla waiting for people to surround her. Because her place was inconvenient, Jing Xiu was temporarily brought to the Du family. Jing Yunjiao directly rushed over at night. He saw that Jing Xiu was still wearing her school uniform, but the back was painted black with ink. Her hair was a little messy. When she saw Jing Yunjiao, her body trembled. She was a little scared, and her whole body was a lot thinner than before. If I were you. Du Lin shook his head. He definitely wouldn't care about Jing Xiu. It wasn't that he was cruel, but that he understood the difference. The Jing family treated her like this, and in turn, they took care of the Jing family's daughter? Wasn't that a little too kind? You're not me. Do you know what I think of when I see Jing Xiu? It's my past. Jing Yunjiao smiled. Her situation in life were almost exactly the same as in her past life. At that time, she really hoped that someone would help her, even if it was only temporary. If there was someone to guide her at that time, how could she be so weak and continue to be bullied by the Qiao family for so many years? The Jing family was the Jing family, and Jing Xiu was Jing Xiu. She was very clear about this. Jing Mingkai and Jing Ling were both scheming and impetuous people. Living with their relatives in the future, they definitely wouldn't have a good life. But even if their lives were ruined and they never had a chance to turn things around, she wouldn't have the slightest bit of sympathy for them. Needless to say, Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfang. Life in prison was not easy. 5 years later, their lives would definitely be worse than they were now. Their bodies would not even be as good as they were now. It was conceivable that their relatives and friends would not help them and their neighbors would not interact with them. Du Lin was rendered speechless by her words, but he understood what she meant. That was why he allowed her to chat with Jing Xiu alone. Jing Xiu, Jing Yunjiao called out. Jing Xiu raised her head, her voice trembling. Sister Yunjiao, I just wanted to ask you what you think about the future. Jing Yunjiao was very straightforward. Jing Xiu shook her head. Jing Yunjiao saw her reaction and didn't feel surprised. She laughed and said to herself, why don't I help you predict what kind of life you'll have in the future? You're not popular in school now. Everyone is targeting you. Your grades were originally very good, but during this period of time, you've always been absent-minded. You can't answer the teacher's questions, and this situation will snowball and become more and more serious. It may cause you to fail the middle school exams and get into an ordinary high school. When you get into high school, you think you can start afresh. But Huaning County is so close, everyone still doesn't like you. You still have no friends, no family. Chapter 292. Other than not having anyone to talk to, you also have to consider your own tuition and living expenses. But once you earn money for yourself to go to school, your younger siblings might come looking for you. They don't have a good life at their relative's house and need your help. What will you do? You feel that your younger siblings are very pitiful. You feel that as an older sister, you should bear the responsibility and quit school to support the family because your parents aren't around. You're still underage and the money you can earn is pitiful, but you have to give it all to others. But they won't be grateful to you because you're a girl and an older sister, so it's only right. Your parents might be released early, but nothing will change. Your younger brother will tell your parents that he's suffered a lot in the past few years, and your parents will blame you for not taking good care of your younger siblings and directly ignore your efforts over the years. The family's expenses are getting bigger and bigger, but your parents can't support the family. You have to continue being the pillar of the family. You might have to continue working hard for your younger brother for more than 10 years until your younger brother starts his own family. But by then, you'll be a big girl, and the neighbors won't like your family. Your parents have been in prison, and in the end, they might only be able to find you an older man after all their efforts. You think you can relax and take care of your husband and children, but your parents will let you continue to support your family. Jing Yunzhao narrowed his eyes and spoke word by word as if he was telling the truth. Wouldn't a person be easily bullied after being weak? When Jing Xiu heard this, her body trembled violently. She quickly shook her head, full of disbelief. But even if she clenched her teeth and refused to admit it, she was well aware of what the truth was. Jing Yunzhao's words wouldn't have any deviations. It could even be said to be an understatement. In fact, she had been having nightmares recently. She dreamed that she was being chased and beaten, and that her parents kept asking her to do things. It was endless. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her and pursed his lips. People always had to experience something to change. What she experienced was death, and then she had a new life. What should I do? I don't dare. Jing Xiu suddenly cried. She squatted on the ground and buried her head in her hands. Don't dare what? Don't dare to resist. That was because they all said that girls should be like that. They should help their parents and prepare everything for their younger brother. Ever since she was young, her neighbors had always praised her, but she didn't like to hear any of those praises. She was sensible and filial. This was because she knew in her heart that being sensible and filial meant that she was obedient. If there was work, she would do it. If there was no work, she would find work. She couldn't stay idle at home. She had even told her parents that she wanted to earn money to support them and her younger brother. If her parents allowed her to go to school, she would go. However, if they wanted her to take leave, she couldn't resist at all. Even if they wanted her to drop out of school, she could only comply. Actually, she didn't like it at all. Why wouldn't I dare? In fact, as long as you take a step forward, those people won't be able to touch you. However, if you stand still, then you can only wait for others to trap you again. It all depends on your choice. Jing Yunzhao said softly. How should he choose? Do I have a choice? She looked confused. If you agree, I can help you transfer schools. I can also find someone to change your name. The previous video didn't capture you very clearly. You can temporarily cut your hair. After changing your appearance, no one will associate you with the Jingxiu of Shuichang village. I can temporarily subsidize your tuition. If your parents are released from prison and you want to go back to them, I won't stop you. However, if you change back to being Jingxiu, you have to return everything you borrowed from me. Chapter 293. Jing Yunzhao still didn't have the ability to completely cut off Jing Xiu's ties with her past, but by changing her name slightly, others wouldn't associate her with the notorious Jing family, and her days would be a little better. Moreover, after changing schools, she wouldn't have to worry about not being able to get along with her classmates. She wouldn't have endless chores and could focus on her studies. Of course, Jing Yunzhao didn't want her to disown the Jing family. What she meant by turning back into Jing Xiu was actually referring to her personality. If she was as weak as before, it would be useless for her to help her. Jing Xiu's face was filled with shock, surprise, and worry. Her wish was actually very small. She just wanted to continue her studies, but in her current situation, she couldn't focus on her studies. But if she could change schools, why are you helping me? My parents treated you so badly. Jing Xiu didn't understand. Because you're different, Jing Yunjiao said matter-of-factly. If she was the same as Wang Xinfang, then even if she knelt down and begged her, she wouldn't consider her. She just felt that it was a pity for Jing Xiu to be the daughter of the Jing family. Could she become like Jing Yunjiao? Her voice was as soft as a whisper. Jing Yunjiao didn't answer. She knew clearly in her heart whether she could or not. It just depended on whether she had the determination. Jing Yunjiao wasn't in a hurry and waited patiently. Du Lin personally cooked a sumptuous meal. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, Jing Xiu finally mustered up her courage. Sister Yunjiao, I want to change schools and change my name. I don't want people to know me. Jing Xiu said. The girl wasn't tall and was somewhat malnourished. Her hair was yellow and she looked very fragile. She matured early and matured early. She understood the hardships of life better than the average person. This was a good thing, but it was also sad. Jing Yunjiao nodded her head. Changing your name is just for a temporary quiet environment. Once this matter blows over, even if other people find out that you're a daughter of the Jing family, you can just openly admit it. You didn't steal. You didn't rob. You've always been upright. What are you afraid of? Jing Xiu nodded with a trace of expectation in her eyes. Since you've agreed, you can stay in the county for a few days. Once you've settled your name and school transfer, I'll send you to Serene City. Someone will take care of you there, Jing Yunjiao said. There were more acquaintances in Huaning County. Since he was going to transfer schools, it was better to do it in one go. The Jade Spirit Wine Company was currently in the limelight. As long as they paid enough money, it would be easy to settle these matters. Jing Xiu was stunned by the sudden change. She was a little worried about her gains and losses. Uncle Du liked her very much, and there was a spare room in the house, so she decided to let her stay in the Du house temporarily. On the way back, Jing Yunjiao informed Pak Yuan that it was not a big problem. Although the name was changed, it didn't mean that they were going to completely cut off all ties with the Jing family. Jing Yunjiao was very clear on this point. 2 weeks later, everything was settled. The courtyard of the Jing family was covered in dust, and no one stepped foot in it. Jing Xiu changed her name to Jing Fan. Jing Xiu had personally chosen this name from the pile of names that Xiang Jin had listed. This name wasn't special, but according to her own words, Jing Xiu sounded like a bitter-faced punching bag. Jing Fan, on the other hand, felt more positive. Xiang Jin was 33 years old. Ever since she returned to Serene City, she had been living alone. When she heard that Jing Yunjiao had taken in a 14-year-old little sister, she took over Jing Fan's daily life without hesitation. The place where she lived was also close to Jing Fan's new school. It was very convenient. Chapter 294. After making arrangements for Jing Fan, the tea house that Pak Yuan contacted also responded. She bought the location she wanted, but Pak Yuan negotiated with the other party to pay in installments. Also, Pak Yuan hired someone to be the manager of the tea house. This person was called Chu Rong. He was in his early 30s, but he had a way with words and was very interested in tea. He was completely different from Jiang Xia's father, Jiang Wensheng. Jiang Wensheng pretended to be a scholar for the sake of business, but Chu Rong was the opposite. Although Jing Yunjiao wanted to get involved with the tea house, she didn't dare to go out recently. Although the Jing and Xiao families had collapsed, she was also greatly affected. Almost every time school ended, Jing Yunjiao would return to her room immediately and try to avoid going out. Although the incident had passed, everyone outside still felt that she was a lonely and pitiful little girl. For example, in this neighborhood, whenever someone saw her, they would take a few more glances with a sympathetic attitude. There was even an old lady who suddenly grabbed her hand and sighed, "Good child, you've suffered." Jing Yunjiao's entire being was in a mess. This wasn't the end. The school had already received gifts from all over for 2 weeks. Inside the office, several teachers were blocked by the gifts sent by those kind-hearted people and had nowhere to stand. Look at what's all this? Down jackets? It's only the end of September. Teacher Jean was speechless. Down jackets are nothing. Look at these, food, drinks, and some toys. Also, I heard that the school has received a lot of remittances. The total amount now is probably more than 200,000 yuan. The teacher next to her sighed. These people have good intentions, but they're too willful. When did Jing Yunjiao say that she needed help? The school has already announced so many times. There are so many people outside who are asking for help, but they didn't help. What nonsense. There were even people who spontaneously donated money to Jing Yunjiao. Each person didn't donate much, but there was strength in numbers. Everyone knew that Jing Yunjiao was now able to support himself. They didn't even know how to tell her about the money for fear of hurting her self-esteem. Originally, the school thought that this so-called kind donation would be over in a few days. But now, it had been more than 2 weeks, and it was getting more and more intense. They had no choice but to inform Jing Yunjiao. But when they thought of Jing Yunjiao's arrogant face, they really couldn't open their mouths. The teachers had no choice but to sort out the things. That afternoon, Jing Yunjiao was called to the principal's office. The principal of number 1 middle school was a very kind person. He spoke slowly, but he did not put on airs. He always wore a white shirt and an old jacket. As soon as he entered the principal's office, Jing Yunjiao saw all kinds of things piled up together. Some were books, some were clothes, and some were letters. Jing Yunjiao sat in the chair opposite the principal. There was a check of $270,000 on the table. Jing Yunjiao, I called you here to ask for your opinion. The principal coughed and then said, the things in this room and the money on the table are donations from people from all over the world. Although our school said that we don't accept donations, the momentum can't be stopped. So the school wants to ask for your opinion. Do you want to accept this money and things? After he finished speaking, the room was silent for a moment. It was slightly awkward. This was the first time the principal showed a helpless expression in front of a student. Jing Yunjiao suddenly understood why the school always asked her if she needed money and donations. It turned out that there were too many people who were kind from all over the world. Chapter 295. Although Jing Yunjiao knew that she had a pitiful life in the past, she had never thought of asking for sympathy from others, especially in such a way. However, this result was within reason. The netizens had initially thought that her parents were having a hard time, but they were able to gather more than 100,000 yuan in donations overnight. Now that they knew that she was the one who had been wronged, it was natural that they would donate more. The school had specifically rejected them, otherwise, the money would have been even more. However, although she loved money, she still had a bottom line. There were some money that she wasn't willing to touch. Jing Yunjiao pondered for a while. I won't accept this money, but it's definitely impossible to return it all. Then, how about I donate it? Actually, the school thinks the same way. The principal smiled bitterly and sighed. As the saying goes, one's mouth is soft when one receives gifts. Since you can support yourself now, there's no need for this kind of donation. Whether Jing Yunjiao accepted the money or not, it didn't affect the school at all. The reason why they were so concerned was because they were afraid that Jing Yunjiao would cause more trouble in the future. Once she accepted the donation, it was equivalent to accepting the kindness of others. However, this kind of kindness wasn't something that could be accepted by just anyone. In the future, there would be people constantly watching her. Once her grades wavered, people would say that she was too lazy to work. If she bought expensive things, it might be said that she was extravagant. People were very forgetful. They might soon forget Jing Yunjiao's pitiful state and only remember the money that they gave out. They would only want to know if it was used properly. When that time came, there would definitely be people who would be calculative and hope that Jing Yunjiao spent all the money on the blade of the blade. Jing Yunjiao's life wasn't really that bad, so in her opinion, there was no need to do so. Principal, everything here will be donated. Moreover, I hope that after the donation, there will be a clear list to prove that I didn't leave anything behind. When the time comes, I'll have to trouble you to post the list online. If anyone else sends things over, do the same. I believe that it won't be long before the momentum stops, Jing Yunjiao said. She couldn't leave anything behind, not even a pen or a book. Those people sympathized with her now, but sooner or later, she would make them forget about it. She would never be a pitiful person in the eyes of others. The principal nodded, but he was still shocked. Jing Yunjiao was only 16 years old. Children at this age didn't have much resistance towards temptation, but Jing Yunjiao could very straightforwardly push these things away. This kind of decisiveness and boldness was something even adults might not be able to do. Furthermore, it was not a small sum. More than 200,000 yuan was enough to pay the down payment for a house in the county. Are you sure? The principal asked again. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Not to mention that she didn't lack these 200,000 or 300,000 yuan now. Even if she really didn't have money, it was impossible for her to use these donations. She still had this bit of backbone. Besides, she wasn't without hands and feet, and she wasn't so pitiful that even a meal would be a problem. She couldn't accept such kind intentions. The principal's eyes lit up. He suddenly understood why most of the teachers in the school liked this child. She was constantly in trouble. People often came to the school to cause trouble, but the teachers all spoke up for her. Naturally, it was not just because of her good grades. Although it was distressing, it was also comforting to be able to remain calm in the face of trouble. Now that Jing Yunzhao herself had agreed, the principal's actions were swift and decisive. That very afternoon, he contacted the local orphanage and donated everything. The whole process of the donation was recorded, and the receipts were also clear as day. Very quickly, it was posted online. In an instant, there was an uproar. Chapter 296. There had always been a lot of people who cheated donations, and very few people would give away the money they had raised. Although the school had told Jing Yunzhao that she could support herself, in their eyes, Jing Yunzhao was only a 16-year-old girl. How could she have that ability? Therefore, many people did not take the rejection seriously and continued to donate. But who would have thought that the school would be so straightforward, which stunned those kind-hearted people? In addition, the school released a statement saying that Jing Yunzhao would not accept donations in the future and hoped that they would donate the money to the people who really needed it. The statement had Jing Yunzhao's signature, so it was not fake at all. The reactions on the internet were different. Some people thought that it might be the school's publicity, while others felt that Jing Yunzhao had some backbone. But no matter what, the school was relieved that the donations were getting less and less. Jing Yunzhao endured another 2 months under the public's gaze, and when she went out, it was a little easier. After the attention on her decreased, the people who recognized her on the road were obviously much less. Even if some people recognized her, they no longer looked at her with concern and sympathy and slowly became calm. Jing Yunzhao came out to reorganize the business of the tea house. After 2 months, Jing Yunzhao entered the tea house for the first time, but she was also shocked. When she first saw this shop, it was a little bleak, and the outside looked shabby, but now it looked brand new. The entrance of the tea house was pasted with gray bricks, and on both sides of the door were 2 elegant mahogany pillars with a pair of couplets engraved on them, giving off an antique feeling. Above the door hung a plaque with the words, Yuling Tea Pavilion, engraved on it. The words were written in clerical script, with the head of a silkworm and the tail of a swallow. Jing Yunzhao's heart was already satisfied, and she walked in. At the entrance, there was an arched partition, with a few short bamboo plants on both sides, and majestic calligraphy and paintings hung on the wall. The atmosphere was very quiet, and Jing Yunzhao immediately fell in love with it. The furnishings were mostly based on the aesthetics of ancient times, but the design was integrated with modern techniques, and the craftsmanship was full. Sorry, we only open tomorrow. Jing Yunzhao was looking around when a waiter walked over. The waiter was wearing a modified light-colored embroidered tang suit. He looked clean and neat. His long hair was tied up, but there was no makeup on his face. He looked very fresh. Is Chu Rong here? Jing Yunzhao asked. The person that Pak Yuan found was indeed the right person. Chu Rong had taken care of the decorations and the service staff all by herself, but it was simply impeccable. The waiter was stunned. Are you talking about the manager? He's on the 2nd floor. I can take you there. Then, Jing Yunzhao followed him. From the private room on the 2nd floor, one could see the park next to the tea house. It looked more luxurious and quieter than the 1st floor, and the area was not small. As soon as he went upstairs, Jing Yunzhao smelled the fragrance of tea. Manager, this lady is looking for you, the waiter said to Chu Rong, who was sipping tea. Jing Yunzhao forgot about the past. His first impression was that it was clean. The other party put down his teacup and walked over. He was stunned for a moment before he asked, Is there something you need from me? Do you want to buy tea? In addition to being a place for customers to chat and drink tea, there were also tea leaves to be sold. Someone had already sent the tea leaves over, but they were all fresh tea leaves. He had even specially stir-fried them himself. But he had to admit that those tea leaves were all good stuff, and he really did not want to waste any of them. "Hello, my surname is Jing Yuan Zhao," Jing Yuan Zhao said politely with a smile. Pak Yuan had already mentioned her to Chu Rong, but it was said that he only told him her surname, mainly because she was too famous before, and he was afraid that this person would be scared away. Chapter 297. Surname Jing? Boss Jing? The smile on Chu Rong's face froze. After a moment of surprise, she hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, someone just told me today that my boss's surname is Jing. So when you opened your mouth, I thought you were. How is that possible?" She was so young. She was still an underage child, right? Moreover, Jing Yunzhao, these two words were so familiar, as if she had heard them somewhere before. "Manager Chu, you're not mistaken." Jing Yunzhao smiled and extended her hand. With the slender hand in front of her, Chu Rong couldn't regain her senses. She wasn't mistaken? What did she mean? "You're the boss of this place?" Chu Rong turned pale with fright, as if she had seen a ghost. After speaking, she frowned and carefully sized her up. "That's impossible. Pak Yuan told me that the owner of this tea house and the owner behind Yuling Wines are the same person." A tea house wasn't surprising. The main thing was Yuling Wines. Although the Jade Spirit Wine Company was not considered a big company, it was now very famous. Anyone who had tasted the company's wine had a very high evaluation of it. If one were to say which wine was selling the hottest right now, it would definitely be the Jade Spirit Wine Company. It was just that the wine was more popular in Ning City and hadn't spread to Huaning County yet. If you don't believe me, you can call and ask. Jing Yunzhao shrugged and extended her hand back. She took a few steps inside and looked around. This was such a big matter, so Chu Rong naturally had to ask clearly. She immediately dialed Pak Yuan's number. When Pak Yuan heard that Jing Yunzhao was going to the tea house, he was already prepared to answer the call. After all, such a young and beautiful girl suddenly appeared as the boss. No one could remain calm. However, when he heard Chu Rong's anxious voice on the other end of the phone, his heart bloomed with joy. Chu Rong was his junior in university. She was especially obsessed with tea. When she was in school, she used all her money to buy tea sets and tea leaves. She could be considered a weirdo. Later, after she graduated, she found a job in a tea house. Who knew that she would quit not long after working there? After so many years, she had been to at least 8, if not 10, tea houses. Later, she simply traveled around to study tea culture. It was not easy for him to invite her back. Pak Yuan knew in his heart that Chu Rong was capable and enthusiastic. She didn't work in other places for long because she couldn't stand the flaws of the tea leaves. After all, those tea houses mainly focused on making money. They only cared about customers and didn't care about the tea leaves themselves. However, Jing Yunzhao was different. This could be seen from Jade Spirit Wines. "Pak Yuan, what's going on? Tell me, what's the name of our boss? How old is he? Is he a man or a woman?" Chu Rong asked. Pak Yuan's ears were almost deafened. He smiled and said, "Have you seen her already? What do you think? Isn't it beautiful?" Chu Rong was flabbergasted. "Really? Jing Yunzhao? A girl who looks like she's only 16 or 17. Are all kids these days so capable? She's not even an adult, yet she can start a business? Moreover, she did so well yesterday. If that's the case, what's the point of having adults like us? We might as well go back to the furnace and start anew." "That's right. Jing Yunzhao, the big boss that I'm most proud of." Pak Yuan was very sure. Chu Rong was stunned for a moment. She recalled the news about the boss that she had heard from Pak Yuan. He said that all the recipes for Jade Spirit Wines were provided by the big boss. He also said that the big boss didn't show his true colors. He might not seem reliable, but in fact, he was very opinionated. Currently, all the big changes in Jade Spirit Wines were approved by the big boss personally. Chapter 298. But he didn't say that the big boss looked like this. It wasn't that she wasn't good looking, but she was too young and beautiful. Bai Yuan quickly hung up the phone. Chu Rong instantly felt embarrassed. Facing such a little girl, he didn't know what to say for a moment. Moreover, the bosses in the past were mostly pure businessmen, but the one in front of him, if he said something wrong, would she cry? You, Boss Jing. Chu Rong opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Jing Yunjiao glanced at him. You made all these tea leaves? Chu Rong nodded. Not bad. Jing Yunjiao expressed his satisfaction, but said, but when our business is good in the future, you won't be able to make all the tea by yourself. You can hire a professional to help. I know, but I'm curious. Isn't there a tea plantation nearby? Where did our tea leaves come from? Chu Rong asked subconsciously. After he spoke, the atmosphere became much more relaxed. You don't have to worry about that. It's our business secret. But after we open, you can go to the south to take a look. If there are good tea suppliers, you can contact them and buy some high-quality and rare tea leaves, Jing Yunjiao added. Purchasing goods from outside could avoid unnecessary suspicion. Although Chu Rong didn't quite understand, he agreed very cooperatively. But he suddenly realized that he had already approved of Jing Yunjiao after just 2 or 3 sentences. She had a trustworthy temperament. When she spoke, she was very dignified and didn't sound like a child at all. However, as Chu Rong was observing, he suddenly remembered where he had heard the name Jing Yunjiao before. Some time ago, he had an elder who heard that he was in Huaning County, so he specially called him to ask about it. He said that he wanted him to go take a look at a girl called Jing Yunjiao in Yizhong School. He then rambled on and on about how pitiful that child was, how she was abused and framed by others, but at that time, he had just agreed to Pak Yuan's request and started to reorganize the tea plantation. How could he have the time to spare? He refused the elder's request and was scolded because of it. If that was the case, then his boss was the child who was rumored to be on the internet? Didn't they say that she was an orphan and had a hard time? Chu Rong had a stomach full of questions, but in front of Jing Yunjiao, it was not good to ask about these private matters, so she could only suppress her curiosity. Then, he introduced Jing Yunjiao to the characteristics and flavors of various tea leaves. He found that although she knew little about tea leaves, she was clear about the cooking methods, functions, and taboos of some tea leaves. He was amazed. It was not until Jing Yunjiao left that Chu Rong excitedly called Pak Yuan again to ask about it. This big boss was simply a genius. She only needed to listen to what he said once. It was not an exaggeration to say that she had a photographic memory. Chu Rong asked what she didn't understand, only to hear Bai Yuan roll his eyes and say, the rumors online are true. Yunjiao doesn't have parents, and her adoptive parents only treated her normally. She was also framed by someone, but saying that she's in a difficult situation right now is all nonsense. You'll know if you search the internet yourself. The matter of the donation has long passed. When Chu Rong heard this, she immediately went online to check. Only then did she realize that there were indeed many posts about Jing Yunjiao. After reading the whole story, her heart felt like it had been run over by a train. She felt heartache, shock, and even a little admiration. She was calm in the face of danger and had the spirit to swallow mountains and rivers, right? Chapter 299. Chu Rong's curiosity towards Jing Yunjiao rose to another level. She couldn't believe it. How could a little girl who grew up under oppression have the ability to open a company? Pak Yuan said that she met a mysterious master, but this kind of so-called master was not something that everyone could meet. If one didn't have the ability, they wouldn't be able to get the master's attention. With complicated feelings towards Jing Yunjiao, Chu Rong waited for the opening of the tea house the next day. Their tea house didn't invite many guests. After all, it was just a tea house in Huaning County. They only invited some businessmen and officials who liked tea, so the scale wasn't too grand. But Chu Rong didn't expect that the tea house wouldn't be as desolate as she thought it would be. When the time came, a few cars stopped in front. She didn't invite many people. Only a few people who were curious about the relationship between Yuling Tea Pavilion and Yuling Wine came. The person with the highest status was only a department head. But soon after, another group of people appeared. After those people got out of the car, they looked at each other. Those big shots of Huaning County who had already entered the door instantly bowed their heads. Everyone's identity shocked her. As a tea fanatic, She didn't know many people, but these people knew each other. When they introduced themselves and chatted, she naturally heard everything clearly. Moreover, the name cards were handed over one by one. How could the identity written on them be fake? What's going on, manager? The waiters were also stunned. Yesterday, the boss had specially told them that there wouldn't be many people today. He had even introduced some of the invited guests to them so that they could be prepared. However, who would have thought that things would develop in a completely different direction from what they had imagined? Hello, Manager Chu, right? Miss Jing didn't come? A man stood in front of Chu Rong and asked. The man was well-dressed and looked very imposing. Chu Rong's mouth twitched as she smiled. She might not be here for a while. Chu Rong was stunned. Didn't Pak Yuan say that Jing Yunjiao's identity would be kept a secret? After all, she was still young and her reputation was already big enough. If Yuling Wine was involved, she wouldn't have a peaceful life in the future. Even if she wanted to go to school peacefully, it would be impossible. So she's sure she'll come? Then I'll have to trouble Manager Chu to arrange a seat. I don't need a private room. I'll just wait in the hall. After the man finished speaking, he didn't forget to call out to his friends. Chu Rong was completely confused by the situation. If these people were here because of what happened on the internet, they shouldn't be big shots. Among them, there was even a city leader who had accompanied his father here. Now, he was actually sitting obediently in the hall and looking around. As for the person just now, the name on his business card was actually a director of a large corporation. That was a corporation, not a small company. Chu Rong hurriedly ordered people to greet them. The firecrackers outside kept on going. The situation inside the house slowly became quiet, but it was a little strange. That was because even though the tea had been served, these people actually didn't drink it. All of them were looking outside, waiting for someone. Could it be that he was waiting for Jing Yunjiao? Chu Rong had worked in many tea houses, but this was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Those guests who came out of curiosity were all extremely happy at this moment. For example, a certain department head. Originally, after receiving the invitation from Yuling Tea House, he didn't want to come. After all, it was just a tea house and there was no need for him to specially attend. However, when he saw the name Yuling Tea House, he was curious. He thought that it might have something to do with Pak Yuan, so he put down his pride and came to take a look. Who would have thought that he would see so many people that he wouldn't normally see? Chapter 300. The atmosphere in the tea house was stagnant. Chu Rong only hoped that Jing Yunjiao would come quickly. He really wanted to know what was going on. Just as he was looking forward to it, there was a sudden commotion in the hall. The people from Ning City suddenly stood up and walked towards the door in unison. Chu Rong originally thought that it was Jing Yunjiao, but when she looked up, it was actually an old man and a boy around 16 or 17 years old. Elder Tang, you are here. Sorry for not going out to meet you. The group director from before politely extended his hand and slightly bowed. Oh, it's Little Sue. You're really fast. Elder Tang glanced at him and smiled. On the other side, the deputy mayor also walked over with a face of surprise. Elder Tang, why are you here too? This girl is my grandson's savior. She said that the tea here is delicious, so of course I have to come and try it. After Elder Tang finished speaking, he walked inside. Everyone opened up a path for him. Although the people did not fight with the officials, Elder Tang had absolute authority in Ning City. He controlled countless businesses and was rich in assets. In this evil era of money, his status was naturally high. Moreover, he was an elder. The county minister who came to make up the numbers was already unable to close his mouth. He originally thought that this tea house was Pak Yuan's business, so many people gave him face. But now, he did not think so anymore. No matter how powerful Pak Yuan was, he was only the general manager of a new company. His assets could not be compared to the people here, not to mention the deputy mayor. If it was the county magistrate, then it would be fine, but this was the deputy mayor. Also, although he did not know this old man, his style was truly invincible. Everyone called him Elder Tang, so he could not help but think that he was the richest man in Ning City. Tang Lin. Chu Rong was already somewhat numb. Just now, he secretly called Pak Yuan and asked him if these people were arranged by him. who knew that Pak Yuan was even more dumbfounded than him. He even asked him to keep the name cards well, and that he would personally come and get them later. These big shots were not people that anyone could meet, and not just anyone could receive their name cards. If Pak Yuan had known that a tea house could cause such a big commotion, he would have begged Jing Yunjiao to open one. Of course, although he was excited, Pak Yuan was also confused. He felt that this matter was too strange. How did Jing Yunjiao do it? At this time, Jing Yunjiao arrived late. However, when she appeared, everyone was clearly even more excited than Chu Rong. The scene was almost the same as when they welcomed Elder Tang. Dr. Jing, you're finally here. It's only been a few days since we last met. Dr. Jing, you seem to have gotten prettier. Dr. Jing, quickly come and take a look at me. Have I completely recovered? Chu Rong's mouth twitched. Didn't these people love the tea leaves he brewed? What kind of situation was it to discuss the illness in the tea house? Could he drive all these people away? Thank you, everyone, for giving me some face. Otherwise, this tea house would have been deserted today. I just don't know what everyone thinks of these tea leaves. If you don't like it, you can ask the waiter to change it. Today's tea is on me, Jing Yunjiao said. Speaking of which, she still had to thank Elder Su. These people were either patients she had treated or their family members. When she mentioned to Old Master Su that she had opened a tea house, she asked him how she could make a name for herself. In the end, Old Master Su rolled his eyes at her and scolded her for being as stupid as a cow. Only then did she realize the true purpose of Elder Su's referral of patients to her. On one hand, it was to spread her medical skills. On the other hand, it was to cultivate her power and connections. Chapter 301. Very few ordinary people knew Old Man Su's name, but the rich and powerful could find out. Old Man Su never treated anyone, but those people kept harassing him. That was why Old Man Su decided to kick all the stinky balls to her. She cured these people's illnesses, and that was an irreversible favor. In Old Man Su's words, these people couldn't wait for her to accept the consultation fee and had some small requests every day. The higher one climbed, the more afraid they were of death. If she left after taking the consultation fee and never contacted them again, these people would probably panic. However, if she occasionally asked them to perform, not only would they not refuse, they would even gladly endure malt sugar. This way, they would feel that if there were any problems with their bodies in the future, she would not hesitate to save their lives. They could offend business partners, but they would definitely not be willing to offend a doctor. If it was an ordinary doctor, it would be fine, but she was different. She was the miracle doctor that Old Man Su had praised to the heavens. Moreover, she was not alone. The title of Miracle Doctor was very powerful, and the miracle doctor that Old Man Su had introduced was on another level. After being reminded by Old Man Su, Jing Yunjiao did not hesitate to send these people an invitation text message. As expected, these people almost instantly called her back and said that they would definitely come. They were much more excited than she was. Of course, Jing Yunjiao also specifically said that they could bring friends who liked tea over. These people today were giving her face, but if they did not like tea, the tea house would still be deserted in the future. Therefore, the main thing was to publicize the taste of the tea. However, Jing Yunjiao did not tell anyone that the tea house was hers. She only said that it was a good place to cultivate and nourish the body. Old Man Su was very satisfied with her attitude of fooling people. Now that even Jing Yunjiao had made an appearance, everyone's hearts also returned to their stomachs. Smelling the fragrance of the tea in front of them, they focused their attention and took a few sips. But when it entered their mouths, they were stunned for a moment, followed by a burst of joy. Most of them often came into contact with tea. After all, this tea had some cultural heritage and could improve their style. Moreover, it was the best choice for gifts. Giving wine was too vulgar, and giving money was too straightforward. This tea was different. If it was chosen correctly, it was a kind of cultured culture. Even Old Man Tang could not help but savor it for a while. Good tea. No wonder Dr. Jing strongly recommended it. Looks like I didn't come here in vain today, one of them said. Jing Yunjiao had never seen the person who spoke before. Thinking back, he should be a family member of one of the patients. The deputy mayor at the side also nodded his head, praising Jing Yunzhao as well. Dr. Jing, the rumors about you some time ago, the deputy mayor said softly. Previously, when his father was seriously ill, all the doctors were helpless. It was pure luck that he found Jing Yunzhao. At that time, he didn't even believe that she had the ability to treat him. However, he didn't expect that after a few doses of the decoction, his father actually began to get better. Although his body was still a little weak, as long as he was nourished as usual, it wouldn't take long for him to completely recover. One had to know that at that time, his father couldn't even get out of bed. But now, he could follow him to Huaning County to taste tea. Jing Yunzhao's methods were so miraculous. How could he not give him some face? Besides, he liked tea as well. The taste of this tea was indeed very good. The natural aroma of the tea leaves was very strong and fresh. It was much better than the ones he drank before. Chapter 302. When the deputy mayor mentioned the rumors on the internet, everyone looked over. Thank you for your concern. Now, everything is back on track. Jing Yunzhao's lips curled into a smile, looking very magnanimous. Chu Rong suddenly felt that she had lived all these years in vain. Jing Yunzhao was younger than her by more than 10 years, but she was much calmer than her. Facing these people, she didn't even have stage fright. It was a simple sentence, but it made people feel very comfortable. Although she didn't explain much, it was just right. The people present were all old foxes. Their words of concern might not necessarily mean that they really wanted to know what happened to her. Most of them were just being polite. If Jing Yunzhao were to talk nonstop about the things that happened to her during this period of time, then the only thing left for them would be awkwardness. After all, there was an age gap. Who would have a good impression of a group of people listening to a child talk nonstop? But now, Jing Yunzhao was calm and simple. She responded to other people's concerns and saved a lot of trouble. She even gave people a feeling of magnanimity and strength. Chu Rong couldn't help but secretly give Jing Yunzhao a thumbs up in her heart. No wonder Pak Yuan worked so hard for her. Every time he mentioned her, he was full of praise. This aura was completely enough. Jing Yunzhao only showed her face to maintain a relationship with everyone. She didn't say anything else and went to Elder Tang's seat to sit down. The others were also happy to be free. They began to really enjoy this afternoon tea time and chatted about their own things. Grandpa Tang, I didn't expect you to come personally. I'm flattered by your favor. Jing Yunzhao personally made tea for the old man and said with a smile. The old man smacked his lips. I haven't seen you for a while. Also, the feng shui of Huaning County is good for people. This old man can only live longer if I take a few breaths. Jing Yunzhao pursed her lips and nodded. Elder Tang's eyes flashed. He drank the tea to hide his guilt. Previously, he was caught in the middle of the He family's matter. He was afraid that this girl would be estranged from him. So when he heard that she wanted to give him a few bags of tea to try, he decided to come personally. Smart people didn't need to speak too clearly. At his age, it wasn't good for him to apologize to a little girl. Now that he was here, this girl should understand what he meant. Jing Yunzhao naturally understood. He couldn't blame the Tang family because of the He family. Therefore, the atmosphere was harmonious. It was just that the Yuling Tea Pavilion was indeed bustling with noise and excitement. However, in the number 1 tea pavilion on the other side of the street, there were people who were gnashing their teeth. The 3 members of the Jiang family were all present. Looking at the long queue of flower baskets and cars parked in front of the newly opened tea house, they were so angry that they wanted to rush up and smash the signboard. The Jiang family's tea house had a certain advantage. Originally, there was only 1 tea house in the vicinity, and many people who liked tea liked to come to his tea house to have a drink. However, ever since the Heartbreak Grass incident, the tea house was deserted, and not a single person could be seen every day. The tea here almost killed someone. Which customer would dare to come after hearing such words? Even if he personally contacted those old customers to explain, no one cared. His business had already plummeted, but at this time, someone actually dared to step on his reputation and open a new tea house. Dad, who was the owner of the tea house? Why are there so many people driving here? Also, no one came out after going in for so long. Could there be something fishy? Zhang Xia also asked with concern. Ever since Qiao Hongye disappeared, Jiang Xia was depressed for a few days. However, after comforting himself for a while, his heart was completely healed. His mentality was so good that no one could compare to it. Chapter 303. Jiang Xia's question made Jiang Wensheng even more irritated. He grabbed a Yixing clay teapot that he had just bought and smashed it on the table. How would I know what's going on? Bastard, to actually open it this time. He's simply purposely going against me. Jiang Wensheng raged. 2 months ago, this shop was bought by someone, but during this period of time, it had been under renovation. There was no movement, so he observed it every day, but didn't take it to heart. Because the location of the shop wasn't too good, the surroundings were very quiet and relatively remote, but who would have thought that there would be so many people on the first day? Those cars attracted the attention of many people, and just a moment ago, a few of his regular customers had already walked in. Why did you smash the teapot? Does this teapot not cost money? Don't tell me you don't feel the heartache because you didn't earn this money? Mother Jiang saw that the Yixing clay teapot was instantly smashed and said with pain. Jiang Wensheng's expression was ugly. This tea house had compensated him quite a lot of money. The 3 families that he had almost poisoned to death had asked him for 600,000 yuan, and the value of the things he had smashed wasn't small, at least tens of thousands. Other than that, there hadn't been any income for the past 2 months, but the shop's expenses hadn't decreased at all, including water, electricity, and labor. In order to warm up the business, he had specially packed some good tea and sent it to some of his regular customers, but in the end, they were all returned, saying that they didn't dare to drink it. He was so depressed that he wanted to die. Why didn't they dare to drink this tea? They clearly loved to drink it in the past. Wasn't it just a mistake of putting something in the wrong place? Was there a need to be so scared? Even when walking in front of his shop, they had to specially avoid it. Simply despicable. Now, the new teapot and tea set in the shop were all bought with the money earned from his wife's clothing store. His heart was also very depressed, but as a man, he really didn't want to hear his wife say such things. Isn't it just a broken teapot? When the business gets better, we can earn it back in a blink of an eye. Jiang Wensheng said gloomily. Mother Jiang rolled her eyes. But how can the business get better? Look, other people have already bullied us at our doorstep, but you only know how to smash things here. Even if the customers want to come, they will be scared away when they see you like this. You are my wife. How can you say such disheartening words? If you hadn't signed the IOU, I wouldn't have to pay so much. Do you know how much effort I'll have to put in to earn back 600,000 yuan with a wave of your hand? When Mother Jiang heard this, she immediately felt wronged. Although it had been a long time, she still trembled in fear when she recalled the situation of that night. You still dare to bring it up? In the end, it's all because of you. If you didn't recognize the wrong medicinal herb, everything would have been fine. And do you think I want to write an IOU? Wasn't it because Xiao Xia was beaten up? He's your son. How can you not feel bad for him? Don't tell me you want to watch those people beat our Xiao Xia into a cripple? Mother Jiang didn't want to be outdone and continued to roar. Jiang Xia originally didn't want to get involved because the couple had been quarreling a lot recently and he was already used to it. But now, his mother had dragged him into this mess, which really annoyed him. Was it a good thing for others to beat him up something worth publicizing? Wasn't she deliberately making him lose face by bringing it up all the time? Although there were no customers in the shop, the waiters were still there. What would others think of him? Dad, Mom, stop quarreling. Jiang Xia frowned and shouted, Isn't it just another tea house? Can't we just go over and take a look? Who knows, maybe the people inside are all hired. Chapter 304. After Jiang Xia finished speaking, Mother Jiang turned her head away in grievance. Jiang Wensheng awkwardly sighed. Little Xia, go take a look with your mother. It's not convenient for me. Everyone on this street knows me. Jiang Wensheng said. Jiang Xia and Mother Jiang agreed. They were all in the same line of work. If Jiang Wensheng went to take a look, he would lose face. The mother and son tidied up their clothes and went out after a while. This street wasn't like the main road outside. It wasn't a two-way street, so it was more convenient for customers to shop. The business of the shops nearby was also better. In the past, the further they went, the quieter it would be. However, it was different today. The surrounding customers who were buying antiques and cultural goods walked around. When they saw the strange scene, they also walked over to take a look. Thus, the flow of people on this street wasn't small at all. It even attracted a few shops around Yuling Tea Pavilion. In the past, everyone was too lazy to go inside. They felt that they could buy something suitable outside. But now, some people changed their minds. Those shops usually didn't have many customers. Thus, when the shop owners saw someone, they would be very enthusiastic and try to rope them in. They weren't as cold and disrespectful as the shops on the street. The fragrance of wine didn't fear the depth of the alley. However, the fragrance of Yuling Tea Pavilion's tea spread far and wide. Jiang Xia and Mother Jiang walked to the door and hesitated. "Mom, I know this car. It's a top-grade luxury model. I heard that it costs tens of millions." Mother Jiang was hesitating if she should go in. Jiang Xia suddenly pointed at one of the cars. "This one isn't cheap either. I'm afraid it costs a few million?" Jiang Xia was shocked. He was a guy. Of course, he had some interest in cars. Usually, he would search for videos or introductions about cars on the internet. He fantasized that one day, he could drive such a flashy mount and take in his beloved beauties. But when this car was placed in front of him, he didn't even dare to touch it. At the very least, he had some self-awareness. If he accidentally damaged the car, his family might go bankrupt. Jiang Xia's eyes were already red. His heart was filled with jealousy. They were all humans, but why was there such a big difference? Some people were born with such luxurious things, but his family was still driving a small broken car that cost more than 300,000. In the past, he felt that the cars at home were pretty good, but compared to the cars in front of him, they were simply rubbish. Such an expensive car, it can't be rented, right? Mother Jiang was even more terrified. Their family's tea house had been open for more than 10 years, but they had never seen such a spectacular scene. Comparisons were odious. Jiang Xia curled his lips. "How can you rent it? Forget it, son. Don't worry about the car. Let's go in and take a look." Mother Jiang pulled her son into the house. However, as soon as they entered the door, the two of them were surprised. Everything in the shop was new, and there were many eye-catching plants in the house. The tea fragrance was everywhere, and it made people feel comfortable. The most important thing was the decoration. It was not extravagant, but it was quiet and elegant. In comparison, their tea house was a little shabby. "Hello, are there two of you?" The waiter smiled like a flower, dazzling Mother Jiang's eyes. "What are their waitresses like?" His face was expressionless. This kind of passionate look had only appeared a long time ago. However, Mother Jiang shook her head. New waitresses were all like this. Once they got used to the environment, they would know how hard life was. By then, how would they be able to smile all the time? "This is your family's first day of business. There should be a discount for this tea, right?" Mother Jiang asked. Chapter 305. The moment Mother Jiang opened her mouth, Jiang Xia froze for a moment, and his face turned slightly red. He had always cared about his face and wouldn't do something like asking for a discount. But thinking about it carefully, Yuling Tea Pavilion and his family's tea house were sworn enemies. He couldn't possibly let them earn the money, so it was reasonable for his mother to ask. The waiter didn't find it strange. After all, it was the first day of opening, and there were indeed some people who liked to join in the fun and take advantage of the situation. Otherwise, new shops wouldn't use discounts to attract customers. "Our manager said that the customers before 2 in the afternoon can taste the tea for free. Please." The waiter was very polite. Originally, there were only some discounts today, but many of the customers here were invited by Jing Yunjiao for publicity purposes. Although they didn't care about the cost of a cup of tea, they cared about their face. Thus, Jing Yunjiao directly told Chu Rong that it was free of charge. Today, the congratulatory gifts they brought were more expensive than the tea. Since these invited customers were free of charge, the other customers who heard the news naturally couldn't be an exception. Otherwise, when the real customers saw that other people didn't pay, they would definitely feel disappointed. Thus, Chu Rong decided to set a time. Mother Jiang took out her phone and looked at the time. It was 1:30, half an hour away from 2. Son, let's go in. Mother Jiang was overjoyed. She turned around and said, Waiter, can we get a pot of special Junshan silver needle and Longjing tea for the two of us? The waiter's mouth twitched, but he still squeezed out a smile, of course. Then make it thicker. Mother Jiang's tail seemed to be wagging. Seeing that there was still a seat in the hall, she directly brought Jiang Xia over. For the customers who came later, the waiter mostly let them go to the private rooms upstairs. Because the atmosphere in the hall downstairs was a bit serious and they mostly talked about business matters, they were afraid that the other customers wouldn't be able to relax. But they didn't expect the mother and son to be unafraid. Manager, they want Junshan silver needle and Longjing tea, the waiter said to Chu Rong. Many customers didn't even ask about the price. Because there was a tea list, the waiter would only tell the customers if it was free of charge at the end. Of course, there were a few people who ordered more expensive tea, but they were more restrained and wouldn't order 2 pots at the same time. They are the wife and son of the number 1 tea house on the street. Another waiter said, then explained, I used to work for them. This family is very stingy. Every type of tea required a different number of grams of tea leaves to brew a pot of tea, but the ones that Jiang Wenxing brewed were almost the same. A pot of pu'er tea in their shop costs more than 600 yuan, and the highest is more than 1,300 yuan. There are at most 16 grams of tea leaves in a pot of tea. The waiter said again. In this way, the tea in the Jiang family's tea house, for the ordinary level of pu'er tea, was worth 20,000 to 50,000 yuan per caddy. It was simply a huge profit. Chu Rong hated people who treated tea leaves as a way to make a living and did not respect them at all. However, Jing Yunzhao raised his eyebrows and smiled. Since they want it, let's just serve it. I'm afraid they won't be able to taste anything even if they chewed on it. They still had to keep their word. They had already said that it would be free before 2 o'clock, so they definitely wouldn't go back on their word. However, as a member of the number 1 tea house, what would outsiders think if they knew that he was here to drink tea? Jing Yunzhao directly found a waiter and arranged for her to walk around. After a while, the waiter served all the tea that the mother and son of the Jiang family wanted. Chapter 306. Mother Jiang looked at the approaching waiter and chuckled softly. This authentic Junshan silver needle was a type of yellow tea. The cheapest one was more than 2,000 yuan per caddy, and the special grade one was probably more than 10,000 yuan. Of course, if it was a green tea type silver needle, it would be cheaper and could be bought for 100 yuan. Since she said that she wanted special grade, if these people gave her cheap goods, she wouldn't be satisfied. When the teapot was put down, Mother Jiang immediately took a look. After all, her husband was in this line of work and had been influenced by him, so she could tell the difference. She only saw that the tea leaves were of uniform length. The tea sprouts were golden yellow inside, and the outer layer was white. Moreover, they were wrapped tightly and were as thin as needles. There was no mistake. Mother Jiang curled her lips. He was willing to spend. In fact, not all the tea leaves in this tea house were expensive. Tea leaves that were worth dozens of yuan per pot could be found everywhere. However, since Jing Yunzhao's tea house sold tea leaves to the outside world, it was impossible for him to only buy the ordinary ones. Mother Jiang looked at the 2 pots of tea and felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. How rich did the owner of this tea house have to be to let them drink so casually? But thinking about it, it was only a pot of tea and didn't use much tea leaves. However, they couldn't let the owner continue to take advantage of them. This tea had to be brewed a few more times and drank enough. However, Mother Jiang didn't know that the waiter sent out by Jing Yunzhao had already begun to stroll around the street. The waiter had worked at the first tea house before, so he was relatively familiar with the people on this street. He went to a few familiar shops and chatted with others for a while. When chatting, it was inevitable that the old and new owners would be compared. Naturally, there was a difference. I haven't seen the owner. Our tea house only has a manager now. The owner usually doesn't come. The waiter blinked and smiled. In the entire tea house, besides Chu Rong, no one else knew who the owner was. And they only thought that Jing Yunzhao was the disciple of a doctor friend of Chu Rong's. After all, the guests today also called her a doctor, so everyone naturally guessed and didn't care. Is the treatment of this Yuling tea pavilion better than the original first tea house? The lady boss of this tea house was also a gossipy person and asked. They were all neighbors on the same street. Of course, he had to ask more clearly. He might be useful in the future. The waiter nodded. It's much higher. Although we haven't met the boss, she treats us much better than Jiang Wensheng. The manager said that the store doesn't keep old goods, especially things like biscuits. If they aren't sold out on the same day, we'll take them back. Unlike Jiang Wensheng, who keeps them for the next day. Even if he can't sell them, he'll keep them until they break. By the way, Jiang Wensheng's wife and son are in our shop right now. Although it was a tea house, some people didn't like to just drink tea, so there were some biscuits and fruits in the store. However, when the other party heard that the Jiang family's mother and son had gone to Yuling Tea Pavilion, his interest was immediately piqued. What are they going there for? Our tea is delicious, so why don't you come and try it? Besides, it's not like you don't know that the Jiang family loves to take advantage of others. Our tea is free before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. These two people ordered 2 pots of good tea and kept drinking it. The waiter's face was filled with indignation as he continued. If the tea they drank was sold, it would be worth several hundred yuan. How shameless! Chapter 307. The waitress also knew her limits. After scolding, she didn't say anything else. She turned around and chose a small toy from the shop, paid for it, and left. The lady boss of the shop she chose was the most talkative person on the entire street. Whatever she heard a moment ago, she would spread it out in the blink of an eye. Moreover, she would exaggerate it and cause an uproar. As expected, seeing the waitress return to Yuling Tea Pavilion, the lady boss couldn't sit still. She happily shared it with the people she knew on the street. In the past, the business of the Jiang family's tea house was good, and it had always been arrogant. However, in the past 2 months, it had withered day by day. Many people were waiting to see a joke. Now that the mother and son of the Jiang family had done such a thing to their peers, how could it not become the topic of conversation after dinner? Instantly, it became an uproar. Their own tea house wasn't making money, yet they went to someone else's tea house to cause trouble. These people could only win, but they couldn't afford to lose. The role of neighbors was still very important. For example, when customers wanted to drink tea but didn't know which tea house was better, the neighbors would be of some use. Especially on such a good day like today, when the opening of Yuling Tea Pavilion was so lively, there were many customers who asked about the situation. Are you asking about that tea house? It just opened, and I heard that the tea there is good. Even the people of the first tea house went there to take advantage of it. Similar words were heard incessantly today. The mother and son of the Jiang family still didn't know that they were famous, and were still sitting upright and still drinking tea. Although the Jiang family sold tea, Mother Jiang didn't like drinking tea. Compared to the bitter taste, she preferred to drink sweet soup. Now that there were 2 pots of tea in front of her, she drank until her face turned green. Most importantly, she felt that the surrounding atmosphere was very strange. It was different from the customers they had received in the past. Their faces were not relaxed, and they were all wearing formal suits. They didn't look like they were here to relax, but to attend some kind of important occasion. Mom, this tea is not good at all. Why is it so expensive? Zhang Xia said directly. Fortunately, they didn't have to pay this time. Otherwise, it would be too much of a loss. Also, no wonder their business was getting worse and worse. How could they sell such things? They might as well open a coffee shop. At least they could keep up with the trend. Mother Jiang rolled her eyes at him. You don't understand. Some refined people like to drink this. She remembered that some customers in the shop used to say that they could feel the bitterness of life before sweetness when drinking tea. Also, when making tea, the tea leaves were like the ups and downs of life. She did not know the specifics. She only knew that once those people drank this tea, they would become very elegant and quiet. Their words would also be quite reasonable. Zhang Xia curled his lips and secretly shook his head. Mother Jiang downed the small cup of tea in one gulp. As she drank, she turned her head to look around. When she heard the people around her praising the fragrance of the tea, her heart was filled with hatred. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly clutched his stomach and cried out, "Ah, it hurts. Little Xia, Mom's stomach hurts. Did I get poisoned?" She even knocked over the teacup, but she didn't want to get tea stains on her, so she rolled on the ground. This reaction startled the other guests. They didn't know whether to put down their cups or drink. Although most of the other guests were upstairs, there were a few in the hall. When they saw this scene, their faces turned pale. What was going on recently? Previously, people almost died from drinking too much tea at the first tea pavilion. Now, something happened on the opening day of this new tea house? Could it be that there was a problem with the tea leaves now? Chapter 308. Fortunately, most of the people in the hall were experienced people who had seen the world. Moreover, they remembered that Jing Yunzhao was a doctor, so although they were shocked, they didn't panic. The waiter quickly went to find Chu Rong. When Chu Rong heard that someone had a stomachache, she was also shocked, but she was more puzzled. When she rushed over with Jing Yunzhao, she realized that the person who had a stomachache was actually a member of the Jiang family. Her confusion was completely solved. She couldn't help but mock Mother Jiang. This Mother Jiang was too impatient. Even if she wanted to pretend to be poisoned, she should have found someone she didn't know. If she was exposed later, where would her face go? Actually, Mother Jiang was already regretting it. It was just that she felt uncomfortable when she heard so many people praising this shabby tea house. That was why she pretended to be poisoned. However, after thinking about it carefully, she knew that she was in the wrong. But now that things had come to this, she could only comfort herself. Moreover, this was the first day of the tea house's opening. If she caused trouble, the impact would be greater. Mother Jiang hugged her stomach and howled on the ground. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her coldly. "Annie Jiang, you drank poisoned tea in your own house. Why are you rolling around in our Yuling tea house?" Jiang Xia turned around and his heart skipped a beat. Why was Jing Yunzhao here? Mother Jiang was even angrier. You wretched girl. I'm really in so much pain," Jing Yunzhao smiled. "Don't be anxious. We'll know soon whether it's really painful or not." Her face was still rosy and lustrous. There wasn't a single spot on her body that looked like she was poisoned. Yet, she said that she was in pain? Did she think that she, a doctor, was just a decoration? Jing Yunzhao's words had calmed the frightened guests down. This woman's surname was Jiang. She even said that she drank poisoned tea in her own house. Then, she was from the first tea house? Especially now that they took a closer look, they felt that it was right. Those who liked to drink tea were all old customers. Some of them had seen Mother Jiang before. As for Jing Yunzhao, there were very few people who could recognize her now. After all, when her video was posted on the internet, she had a cold and aloof temperament. After more than 2 months of washing, her temperament had become much more gentle. In addition, she had spent more time in the space, and her appearance had become more beautiful. Now that she appeared here, people who didn't know her generally wouldn't associate her with the character on the internet. Why are you still making sarcastic remarks? My mother is already in this state. Quickly call an ambulance. Jiang Xia didn't know that his mother was faking it. His anxious expression didn't seem fake. Jing Yunzhao glanced at the tea on the table and said, "There's no need. I'm a doctor. What a waste of such a good thing." Jing Yunzhao walked over and used violence to drag Mother Jiang to the middle of the hall. He used one hand to clamp down on both of Mother Jiang's wrists so that she couldn't move at all. His knees pressed down on her body, and her entire body was fixed in a certain position. His other hand pressed against her abdomen as he chuckled. "Does it hurt here? It hurts. It hurts." Although Mother Jiang was dissatisfied, she still said it. "How about here?" Jing Yunzhao changed his position and asked again. "It hurts too." Jing Yunzhao nodded with a smile that wasn't a smile. Then here. It hurts too? That's right. My stomach hurts so much. This tea isn't clean. Mother Jiang clenched her teeth. She didn't see the reaction of the person who drank the intestine-severing grass. Since it was something unclean, what else could she do besides having a stomachache? Chapter 309. Jing Yunzhao didn't let go of her hand as she looked at Chu Rong. "Bring my bag over." Chu Rong didn't know what she was going to do, but she did as she was told. Jing Yunzhao's bag was placed at the front desk. Chu Rong felt that the bag was very light, but she didn't think much of it. Jing Yunzhao took the bag and rummaged through it before taking out an exquisite little box. When she opened it, everyone saw that there were silver needles of different sizes neatly arranged inside. The other guests didn't know the situation, but the guests knew that Jing Yunzhao's medical skills were amazing. Since she took out the silver needles, she was naturally going to treat this woman with acupuncture. The few of them couldn't help but admire her. The godly doctor was indeed amazing. She even knew acupuncture. But they didn't know if acupuncture could cure the poison. "What are you doing?" Jiang Xia saw the thin silver needles and immediately stopped her. "Since Mrs. Jiang is poisoned, please don't disturb Miss Jing's treatment." Chu Rong immediately stopped Jiang Xia. He also just found out that the big boss was a doctor today. So these big shots were all her patients. It was simply amazing. Jiang Xia wasn't as strong as Chu Rong and was blocked behind her. Mother Jiang saw the silver needles and immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Where did this freak come from? She actually brought these silver needles with her? Did she think that reality was a soap opera? She could casually stab anyone she met? "Let go of me," Mother Jiang immediately said. Unfortunately, Jing Yunzhao was a martial artist. Mother Jiang was a woman with little strength. How could she compete with her? Even after struggling for a while, she still couldn't move. Jing Yunzhao held the silver needles in one hand and said with a smile, "Don't move. Otherwise, if you stab the wrong place, you will lose your life." She had just bought these silver needles. In the past 2 months, she had absorbed 4 pieces of spirit jade. The last piece of spirit jade had already involved some acupuncture techniques, but it was still very simple. Moreover, acupuncture couldn't only rely on memory. Therefore, she specially bought some models and began to practice her skills in the space. Hearing her say that, Mother Jiang was in a bad mood. "You damn girl, you dare to stab me? If something happens to me, you won't be able to bear the consequences? What nonsense are you talking about? I saw that you were in trouble, so I came to help you." Jing Yunzhao flashed the silver needle in front of her eyes. In the next second, he lifted up all the parts of her body that could be lifted up. Feeling the chill on her body, Mother Jiang knew that Jing Yunzhao wasn't joking. In the next second, he felt as if a numbing sensation was approaching, and his brain instantly crashed. "There's no need for treatment. I'm done. It doesn't hurt anymore." Jing Yunzhao paused. "Are you sure?" Mother Jiang nodded repeatedly. "It was very painful just now, but it's fine now. It shouldn't be a major poison." He was obviously telling others that the tea was still poisonous. Jing Yunzhao let go of her, only to see her immediately climb up from the ground. "What's wrong with you, little girl? You drugged the patients in our family's tea house, and now you're stabbing me with a needle? Are you crazy?" Mother Jiang, who had just escaped from the restraint, immediately shouted. Jing Yunzhao put the silver needles back into the box and walked over to where she was sitting just now. He raised his hand and picked up the teapot. Without saying a word, he began to gulp down the tea. Her vulgar actions brought about a strange sense of beauty. After Jing Yunzhao finished drinking, she wiped her mouth and placed the teapot on the table. The sound was so powerful that it made people's hearts skip a beat. Chapter 310. You said you had a stomachache, so I treated it for you. In the end, you rolled on the ground and howled for a while before you recovered. Annie Jiang, you're the lady boss of the opposite tea house. Who would believe you if you said you weren't pretending to harm Yuling Tea Pavilion? Jing Yunzhao opened his mouth and continued, "Now, I've also drunk this tea. It's exactly the same without any difference in taste. In fact, I drank more than you, so why am I fine? Could it be that this tea has eyes and can recognize people? She knows that you're a black-hearted old witch, so she let you taste the poisonous apple formula?" Chu Rong's mouth twitched. Wasn't Snow White the one who ate the poisonous apple? Why did she become an old witch when it came to Jing Yunzhao? Mother Jiang's face turned pale and green. As for the others, they completely understood. Those customers who were worried earlier were completely relieved. If it was someone else, they might think that Yuling Tea Pavilion was not clean. But it was the lady boss of the #1 tea house. Then why was the number one tea house's business getting worse and worse? Wasn't it because there was a problem with their tea house? Now that the number one tea house's business was bad, they must be jealous of Yuling Tea Pavilion. So they used the same method to accuse them? Their thoughts were too vicious. No matter what, they would never step into that tea house in the future. Besides, the taste of Yuling Tea Pavilion's tea was much better than that of the number one tea house. After tasting a mouthful, the fragrance lingered on their cheeks. The color of this tea was also top-notch. In the past, the number one tea house's reputation was bigger, but other places were not as good as the number one tea house. That was why they could only go there. But now, there was another Yuling Tea Pavilion. In that case, they would not have to suffer anymore. In this tea house, the staff's attitude was not only amiable, but their service was also very good. Even the refreshments were fresh and clean, and the taste was also very good. Other tea houses could not even compare. Jing Yunjiao, you and Jiang Xia were classmates. Even if our little Xia did you wrong in the past and broke up with you, you shouldn't be so vicious and bear a grudge until now, right? That needle just now, if it really pierced my body, how painful would it be? If the tip of the needle had pierced my flesh, the consequences would have been very serious. Mother Jiang angrily reprimanded. She felt that regardless of whether she was faking it or not, the owner of this tea house should come forward and send her to the hospital first. But now, the boss didn't appear, and the manager didn't say anything. Instead, Jing Yunjiao was taking the initiative. Who did she think she was? Why was she in every tea house? Break up? Jing Yunjiao's eyes darkened. Jiang Xia was also stunned, but in the next second, he couldn't help but admire his mother's quick-wittedness. Those letters had been destroyed, and the previous matter could be considered over. If he told others that Jing Yunjiao was the girl he had dumped, he would feel better. However, the others present couldn't help but sigh in disbelief. How could Jing Yunjiao fancy such a cowardly smiling boy? How was that possible? Some people's mental fortitude was just that bad. They failed in courtship and instead became resentful, so they would ruin the other party's reputation. She believed that this little boy should be such a person, right? You think that just because the letters were destroyed, you can say whatever you want, right? Jing Yunjiao suddenly opened his mouth and said. After saying that, he took out his phone, and a trace of contempt flashed across his face. In the next moment, he opened the photo gallery. Instantly, Jiang Xia panicked. He saw that Jing Yunjiao's phone still had the photos of the love letters saved. Every word was very clear, especially his signature at the end. How could this be? She had used the love letters to exchange for 100,000 yuan from their family. Chapter 311. When Mother Jiang saw this, she almost went crazy from anger. What's wrong with you? You bitch. Didn't we agree to exchange 100,000 yuan for the letter? You actually went back on your word. How can there be such a vicious girl? She's only 16 or 17 years old, but her heart is already so complicated. Annie Jiang, please be more polite. Jing Yunjiao kept his phone and said, when dealing with people like you, if I don't hold back, who knows what will happen in the future? Look, it's working now, isn't it? If it was someone else, she might have believed their promise, but Jiang Xia, although she didn't accept Jiang Xia's pursuit in her past life, he still pestered her for a long time. How could she not know what kind of person he was? Moreover, when Jiang Xia wrote the love letter, she let him go. On one hand, she felt that this matter wasn't dignified, and on the other hand, she had already beaten Jiang Xia up. If she examined his injuries, she wouldn't be in the right. However, it was different now. Jiang Xia's injuries had already healed completely, and there weren't any traces left. As for being dignified and embarrassing, in comparison, who was more embarrassing? Firstly, she didn't accept Jiang Xia's pursuit. Secondly, she had self-respect and self-respect. Now, even if she spread the matter out and let the school handle it, she wouldn't be affected at all. At this moment, the Jiang family's mother and son pair withered. The Jiang family only had one son, Jiang Xia. Jing Yunjiao, don't be so ruthless. If you force us into a corner, who knows what we might do? Mother Jiang gritted her teeth and said. Jiang Xia was already in a daze. His mind was filled with the contents of the love letter he wrote. He didn't know what to do. The Jiang family had to spend quite a lot of money to clean up his mess. Because of this love letter, they spent 100,000 yuan. Later on, when the shop was in trouble, it was because someone used Jiang Xia's safety to threaten Mother Jiang that they lost 600,000 yuan. Not only that, when Jiang Xia and Xiao Hongye were together, Xiao Weiman made a fuss. The Jiang family also took out some money to shut Xiao Weiman's mouth. In short, ever since Jiang Xia entered high school, this money flowed into other people's pockets like flowing water. Although the Jiang family was rich, no one's money could withstand such a large amount of squandering. I'm not the one who did the wrong thing. I'm just returning an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If you're desperate, then go ahead. No matter what move you use, I'll take it. Who's afraid of who? Jing Yunzhao snorted. Mother Jiang was speechless. Jiang Xia gritted his teeth and said, Jing Yunzhao, why do you have to do this? If you're angry because of what my mother said just now, then I apologize to you. Please delete the photos in your phone. Tea money. Jing Yunzhao only said 2 words. Isn't your tea free? Mother Jiang roared. That's right, it's free, but that's for customers. But are you a customer? To be more accurate, you're a fellow traveler who's here to scout for information. Furthermore, you're here to frame Yuling Tea Pavilion. So what's wrong with asking you to pay for the tea? Besides, you have to compensate us for the cost of the teacups, right? Jing Yunzhao said. This was an authentic purple clay cup. There were different grades of purple clay cups. The cheap ones were over 100 yuan, the medium ones were over 1,000 yuan, and the best ones were over 10,000 yuan. Coincidentally, the one that Mother Jiang had smashed was priced at 3,000 yuan and was made from purple mud. Actually, the Junshan silver needle could have been made with a glass cup, but Mother Jiang thought that she knew a lot about tea leaves and tea sets. Thus, when she drank the tea, she specifically asked the waiter to change it to the best tea set. She sincerely wanted to disgust others, but in the end, she was the one who was disgusted. Who could she blame? Isn't it just a broken teacup? Don't think that I haven't bought purple clay cups before. Why would I need so much money? 3,000 yuan is enough to buy 10 or 20 of them. Chapter 312. Mother Jiang was so angry that she was heaving up and down. She lowered her head to look at the broken teacup on the floor. It did seem a little different from the one she bought. The waiter at the side couldn't help but laugh. Mrs. Jiang, the Yixing clay cups in your shop are all low-grade goods. They are made from raw ore, which is different from this Yixing clay. Let me tell you, our Yixing clay cups were personally selected by our manager. This kind of teacup has a smooth flow of air, good ventilation, and can reflect the fragrance of the tea. Even if you don't use it to drink tea, it's still good for your collection, the waiter said. Of course, these words were taught by Chu Rong. Yixing clay was the most suitable for some teas, so the shop would prepare a little of each type of cup to be used according to the tea leaves. Mother Jiang's heart was filled with anger. She was a businesswoman and had been in the tea shop business for so many years. Her first consideration was naturally to make money. Who would buy such expensive things to put in the shop? If it broke, she would be heartbroken. You can't blame me. How would I know it was so expensive? Mother Jiang's face seemed to have more wrinkles. You didn't know? The waiter smiled. When you came in, you asked for the more expensive tea in our shop. You refused to use the glass cup I brought and insisted on using Yixing clay. You even said you wanted the best. You're not playing dumb with me, are you? Mother Jiang turned her head away. She was just deliberately nitpicking. Who knew that the waiter would be so obedient and really bring such good things? There were so many people present, and everyone liked a quiet environment. Jing Yunzhao didn't want to make others unhappy, so he first asked the waiter to clean up the stains on the floor. There are so many witnesses here. Mrs. Jiang, you should think carefully. Either you pay up today, or we call the police. But if things get out of hand, the one who will lose face is your Jiang family's tea shop, not our Yuling Tea Pavilion, Chu Rong said directly. Mother Jiang's face was tense. There was no extra expression, like a zombie. I'll pay, I'll pay. The veins on her forehead were about to explode from anger. Stepping on her high heels, she walked step by step towards the front desk and took out her wallet. The total value of the teacups and tea was about 4,000 yuan. Jing Yunzhao kindly helped her remove the odd number and ended up with a total of 4,000 yuan. The money for a meal. Mother Jiang wanted to vomit to death. How did you know to give her such a good tea set? Could it be that you can predict it? Chu Rong was surprised. Actually, when Mother Jiang mentioned that she wanted to change the tea set, the waiter brought over an ordinary purple sand tea set. However, after Jing Yunzhao saw it, he specially found a good quality one to replace it. I just think that the mother and son are definitely up to no good. Take something good and send it up. If it gets smashed, we can take the opportunity to advertise it. Jing Yunzhao chuckled. The corner of Chu Rong's mouth twitched. That was right. The waiter in their shop was also vicious and vengeful. He said that the tea set of the first tea house was of inferior quality. Everyone heard it. Drinking tea was a type of enjoyment, but the tea set was also extremely important. Now, at least in the eyes of a portion of the people, no matter if it was the tea leaves or the tea set, the Yuling Tea Pavilion was extremely meticulous. It was believed that there would be some customers who would especially want to try the taste of the tea brewed from these fine Yixing cups. Although they had to pay for it if it was broken, this was a tea shop. In such a quiet and elegant place, there would not be any fights. If it was not intentional, the teacup would not be broken. Moreover, there was a wooden floor and a layer of velvet carpet. If the teacup fell naturally, it would not even make a sound. How could it break a corner like Mother Jiang? Chapter 313. The Jiang family's mother and son left in a flustered and exasperated manner. It was simply a double loss. But in less than 2 hours, they found out that everyone outside knew that they had gone to Yuling Tea Pavilion to take advantage of the situation and even smash things. They didn't know who was the one with such a loose mouth, spreading the news like wildfire. Jiang Wenshang was so angry that he wanted to kill someone. He had never seen such a stupid person. He told her to check out the situation, but she acted recklessly. It was fine if she didn't destroy the other party, but she also lost money and reputation. However, the Jiang family didn't know that the truth wasn't so simple. On the second day of school, Jing Yunzhao went to the principal's office and handed over Jiang Xia's love letter. The principal's face darkened when he saw it. If this matter were to spread, it would affect the school's reputation. The higher-ups would definitely criticize this highly respected principal. Therefore, Jing Yunzhao didn't want to make a big deal out of it. After all, the school had helped her a lot in the past. The principal was also a practical leader. There was no need for her to be criticized because of Jiang Xia. Jing Yunzhao had already sent this letter to the school. How could the school let such a morally corrupt person stay? If Jiang Xia had only written a normal love letter, he would at most be given a warning. If he didn't change his ways, he would only be given a demerit. However, the content of this love letter was outrageous. Therefore, the school directly expelled him. Jiang Xia thought that this matter was over, but now it was dug up again. Being expelled was a stain on his academic record. If he wanted to find a good school, he would have to spend a lot of money. However, he wasn't willing to go to those second- or third-rate schools. It was all Jing Yunzhao's fault. She beat him up, cheated him of 100,000 yuan, and now she had ruined him. Although the love letter didn't spread out and cause a huge commotion, this kind of expulsion would definitely be announced to the whole school. Now, everyone knew that he had written such a filthy and unbearable thing. The female students who were close to him in the past didn't even bother with him anymore. They even stared at him with a look of disgust. How could this be? In the past, he was the class monitor and had a good relationship with everyone. He was also one of the top 10 school hunks in the school and the captain of the basketball team. There were countless girls who liked him. But now, he was kicked out of the school. The difference was too big. When they found out that Jiang Xia had been expelled, the Jiang parents were even more shocked. Why didn't we just let Jing Yunzhao spread the information? We won't lose so much money and end up with nothing. Jiang Wensheng gritted his teeth. At that time, Jing Yunzhao even hit Jiang Xia. She might even have to pay for it. Jiang Xia lowered his head, feeling defeated and anxious. Dad, can you send me to Serene City to study? The learning environment there is very good, Zhang Xian said after a while. If it was in the past, then Jiang Wensheng would have considered it, but now he immediately shook his head. Impossible. You were expelled from school. those schools in Ning City would call to inquire about your situation. When the time comes, they would also know about it. No matter how much money I spend, they might not be willing to recruit a student like you. Little Xia, I advise you to give up. There are many high schools in the county. Just pick one. It's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. When you go to that school, your grades will be able to overshadow everyone. Those teachers won't care what you've done in the past. Jiang Wensheng said again. Those third-rate schools didn't recruit students with good grades. Their admission rate was pitifully low. If Jiang Xia went there, they would naturally welcome him. Oh right, when you went to Yuling Tea Pavilion, what was Jing Yunjiao doing? Was he a part-time waiter? Chapter 314. Jiang Wensheng was puzzled. Previously, when his wife and son mentioned Jing Yunjiao, they seemed to be saying that Jing Yunjiao had a very high position in Yuling Tea Pavilion. Even the manager allowed her to make the decisions. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. Jing Yunjiao didn't have a good family background. Although she didn't lack money, she was only a high school student. Even if she looked for a job, she would at most be a waitress. However, a waitress couldn't possibly make the manager listen to her orders. Then could the tea house be Jing Yunjiao? Jiang Wensheng thought of this point, but immediately shook his head. Even though Jing Yunjiao had swindled 100,000 from the Jiang family, but to open a tea house like that, let alone 100,000, even if it was 500,000, it still might not be enough. Tea leaves, tea sets, waitresses, and renovations, which one of them didn't cost money? Moreover, they heard that the house was directly sold to the owner of the tea pavilion, so it was even more impossible. But why was that? We also don't know. In any case, Jing Yunjiao's words seem to be very effective. Manager Chu's attitude towards her is also different from others, as if she is the manager. Jiang Xia muttered, "Hubby, didn't she appear in our tea house before? Did she come here to scout for information to sell to others?" Mother Jiang asked. Anger flashed across Jiang Wensheng's face, but in the blink of an eye, it was clear that it was impossible. Their tea house didn't have any information at all. It was just some tea that could be drunk after soaking it in water. There was nothing to research. If it wasn't for the fact that he had misjudged the heartbreak grass, he would have believed that Jing Yunjiao's purpose in coming here was to poison them. But no matter what, he had formed a grudge with Jing Yunjiao. Jiang Wensheng secretly hardened his heart. After hesitating for a few days, he found that Yuling Tea Pavilion's business didn't decrease. He made up his mind to make a phone call. 2 days later, Jing Yunjiao left Old Man Su's house on the road and felt a murderous aura around her. The alley was filled with people. There were 40 to 50 of them, and the people behind her were following closely behind her. Some of the people in front of her were leaning against the wall and smoking, while others were squatting on the ground with their arms around each other's shoulders, waiting for someone. When they saw her, they all stood up and slowly gathered together, getting closer and closer. Jing Yunjiao took out her phone, but one of the men snatched it from her hand. "Jing Yunjiao, right? You want to call the police? We'll talk about it in 10 minutes. With her ability, she could definitely protect her things, but it wasn't time yet. Besides, she didn't want to call the police just now. Who are you? Jing Yunjiao pretended to be scared. Are you scared now? The leader smiled and said, Look, everyone, that family even said that she was very good at fighting, but it doesn't seem to be anything special. Little girl, just cooperate with us and don't resist. We won't hit you too much. The other party just wants us to break one of your arms and legs and scratch your face. Seeing that you're not bad-looking, we'll be more straightforward and won't act recklessly. What do you think? The leader laughed. These words made it sound like her arms and legs were made of dough. Jing Yunjiao didn't even have to think before she said, Jiang Wensheng? The other party grinned and didn't say anything, but Jing Yunjiao knew that there was no one else other than them. Although the He family could be involved, she heard from Tang Zihua that the Tang family had withdrawn their investment in 2 of the He family's projects. The He family was very busy now and couldn't even take care of themselves. They also knew that they had violated Old Man Tang's taboo, so they wouldn't come and find trouble with her at this time. You don't have to ask anymore. Asking too much will only bring trouble to yourself. Also, after we leave, you can call the police. But if you say something you shouldn't say, You have to be careful when you walk in the future, especially when the night is dark and the wind is strong. Chapter 3:15. The leader was in his 20s and didn't look very good. He had slanted eyes, thin lips, a big nose, and some pockmarks on his face. However, this person had a bit of momentum when he spoke. He was sloppy and looked like a ruffian. At first glance, one could tell that he had mingled in the streets. Jing Yunzhao had encountered others before, but the number of people before was small, and they were not even some martial artists. After all, these people in front of him were all punks who fought and killed every day. This boss seemed to have some martial arts skills, so naturally, he could not be compared with the people he had encountered before. There have been people who threatened me before, but some of them went to prison, and some of them were beaten until they could no longer stand up. Which one do you think you are? Jing Yunzhao suddenly said. At that time, Lu Jia and her cousins also said that they would scratch her face and let her cooperate well, but in the end, the unlucky one was not her. The other party was stunned, and then suddenly laughed. Strange things happen every year, especially this year. Brothers, did you hear that? What did this little girl say? Are they threatening us now? Aya, why can't I hear it? If you have the ability, say it again for me to hear. The boss exaggeratedly stretched his ears, his face full of ridicule and contempt. When the punks behind him heard this, they immediately flattered. Is she scared silly? Big brother, this chick is quite good-looking. How about we take her to play? Go. What play? We have received money, so we have to follow the rules. Okay, little girl, I won't talk nonsense with you. We brothers have offended you. The boss replied, and after that, he gave the brothers next to him a look. Suddenly, some punks came forward and tried to restrain her hands. Since this group of people insisted on fighting, then she did not need to be polite. With a flip of her hand, Jing Yunzhao directly clamped down on the two hooligans who came forward. The two's hands were twisted at a strange angle. They couldn't react in time and cried out in pain. Jing Yunzhao raised her leg and ruthlessly kicked the two hooligans. In an instant, the two hooligans' faces hit the ground, scraping out a patch of blood. When the others saw this, they raised their eyes to look at the boss. The boss also didn't think that Jing Yunzhao would actually have the ability to resist. He frowned. Since you're not obedient, then we don't have to be polite to you. Brothers, charge. With a loud shout, the small alley was instantly thrown into chaos. 40 to 50 people rushed towards Jing Yunzhao. Even if they were bare-handed, the formation was truly frightening. That night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The surroundings were quiet and devoid of people. Even the number of residents was pitifully small. Although these people were making a lot of noise, who would notice them when they were hidden in the dark? In the eyes of the boss, it was a sure-win situation. Thus, when he saw his brothers step forward, he immediately retreated to the back to watch the battle. However, a few howls suddenly rang out, and the first wave of people who rushed up were instantly shaken out. In the next second, Jing Yunzhao leaped into the air like a bolt of lightning, kicking towards the second group of people. Her jump was as high as a person's height. She twisted her body and wrapped her legs around a person's neck, flinging him away. The boss stood there in shock, feeling a cold wind behind him. He was confused. What's going on? Does she really know martial arts? When Jiang Wenshang contacted him, he did mention that Jing Yunzhao had a violent personality. Previously, she had beaten up the son of the Jiang family until he could not get out of bed. The people in the school also said that she had some skills, but there was always a gap between rumors and reality. He thought that Jing Yunzhao was just a little stronger than others. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.